Okay, so it's 6 o'clock. Are we ready to get started? If so, Eliana, where you are? There you are. Can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee McBride?
Here.
Trustee Marquez? Trustee Slocum?
Here.
Vice President McAvoy?
Present.
President Lawson?
Here. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our June 3rd special board meeting. If you would like to speak to the board, please fill out the Google Doc that I've posted the link in the chat a couple of times, and I'll continue to post it for those who come in later. Please make sure to include your name so that we know who to unmute when the time comes. If the item you would like to speak on is not on the agenda, you'll be called on during oral communication. And at that time, because of the Brown Act, we can hear what you want to say to the board, but we're not able to have a discussion about that item. If you are speaking on an item that is on the agenda, you'll be called on when that item is being addressed, and we will be able to respond to your questions at that time. As I said, make sure you put your name on the comment card so that we know who to unmute. And for all of those in the audience, just know that you are muted when you come in, so you don't have to worry about finding that. A reminder that because we're meeting via teleconference, all votes are going to be by roll call. So before we move on, I just want to share, first of all, a few words that came from our county superintendent earlier this week. She wrote that we extend our most sincere condolences to the Floyd family, to those who are most impacted by the tragedies. The trauma of living in fear with violence hurts even the youngest members of our communities. It makes learning almost impossible and robs our young people of the joy that should be theirs as they grow up in America. So I stand with our county, our state, and our nation in grieving the recent tragic killing of George Floyd, in addition to the thousands of others who have been killed in a like manner. So with that said, I would like to forego the Pledge of Allegiance and join me in a moment of silence for those who live with the fear and pain of racism every day. Thank you for joining me. We are moving on to 3.1, changes to the agenda. Does anybody have any changes? If none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Maria and Cecilia.
Elisa.
Oh, sorry, Cecilia's not here yet. Maria and Elisa. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee McBride?
Aye.
Trustee Marquez? Trustee Slocum?
Aye.
Vice President McAvoy?
Aye.
President Lawson?
Aye. Thank you. I'm just checking. We do have one item for oral communication. Let me just double check. And that's Catherine Stewart. I don't see Catherine in the audience yet. Are you here, Catherine?
I don't see her in the list either.
Okay, I'm going to put the links out one more time, just in case there's somebody else who wants to pop in with oral communication. The other cards that we have are speakers for the discussion on reopening of schools, so item 6.1. And if she's not here, then we can go ahead and move on to item 6.1. Dr. Baker?
Hi, perfect. Good evening, everyone. So as we have been working hard on determining the best course of action for reopening schools, I was alarmed and aghast at the recent news and death of George Floyd. Sadly, we've seen the events of the world disrupt the lives of our students, families, and staff many times over the last few years in similar situations as this brutal act. I open my remark tonight with a sentiment of the importance of talking to each other and our students about racial bias and the concepts of racism. Education and awareness are what separates acts of tolerance with acts of brutality. Our job as educators is to ensure that all students have the knowledge they need to understand the world we live in, build tolerance and empathy, and take reflection on actions displayed by oneself or others. I encourage you all to talk to your students and children in an age-appropriate fashion. Older students may have heard about the riots and protests. Help us, educators, by increasing their awareness of how they can be part of working towards bridging solutions to these issues. We remain a community that elevates justice and disfavors violence. I'm proud to lead a group of staff members who also believe in tolerance, equity, empathy, and building on our strengths. One way the district has been working on this challenge is to partner with the National Urban Alliance to support high intellectual performance for students and to uncover strengths in our students and to close the gap of educational inequities. Trainings have been provided for many of our sites, which began last fall under the direction of Dr. Linda Montes, who will be working very closely, and that will be one of her sole responsibilities next year, to move this project forward, to making sure that all our students have the understanding of what it is to be a student, not only within the Redwood City School District, but to understand about equity and to understand about racial issues. I'm looking forward to when Dr. Montes continues its work next year. And at our next board meeting, which is next week, Dr. Montes will be giving a presentation along with members from the National Urban Alliance to give you an update of the types of staff development that we've had so far and what's going to take place next year. So I'm glad and really excited about all that work taking place, and that Linda is going to be spearheading it for us. So thank you, Linda. So to this end, I will transition to discuss how we will continue to provide an education with high expectations for all our students in our current pandemic crisis. And before we begin, I know some of you board members know Liz Wolf, and others of you do not. Liz worked with the Redwood City School District for many years. She left us and went on to work in other districts and the County Office of Education for San Mateo, and now she's at the County Office of Education for Santa Clara. So beginning July 1, although she's been working with us, I don't know, for a couple months now, doing two jobs, we're not telling anybody that. She has been helping us with this reopening of schools. And it's my pleasure to introduce her to all of you tonight, as she will be spearheading educational services as Dr. Montes. Linda goes on to head the whole project working with NUA and equity. So Liz, welcome so much. And I'm sure there are a few board members here that do know her. I think there's Elisa, there's Dennis, and there's Maria. And I think Cecilia also, because I think her oldest child was in school when you opened up Adelante.
Mm-hmm. So Liz, I don't know that we've met, so I might be the only one of the board members, but I've heard so much about you and we're excited to have you helping us along here.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here, and I've heard wonderful things about you, and I look forward to working with you. And I'm so happy to see all of my friends again. So thank you for letting me come back.
So with that being said, so a few weeks ago, approximately 4 weeks ago, as the County Office of Education was beginning to work on a framework for reopening schools during the pandemic crisis, we were given the information by Nancy McGee, the superintendent for the County Office of Ed, of what we should be thinking about to reopen schools. The framework is now in its final draft, and hopefully the final draft will be out on Friday so that we can post it not only on our website, but the county office will have it on their website. At this point in time, it's only superintendents, cabinet, which are the administrators in the district, and the board members. I sent you each a copy of it. And I know many of you have been partaking in the different county calls that take place each week. That give you a little bit of update of where the county is with this framework. The framework is a guide for us. So we started working with a steering committee to begin with. And the steering committee was comprised of not only cabinet members, and for those in the audience, cabinet members are members that are all administrators within the district office that I work very closely with, along with the administrators at the school site. So what we did is we started looking at the framework and gathering information not only from our own county, but from other counties throughout the state of California to really see what was going on. And that's where Liz helped us a lot, was to look at these other counties in the state. Then we decided that we would break into subgroups from the steering committee. And in the subgroups, we do have principals, and we do have classified representation. We have representation from our teachers. And now we're going to later on talk about representation from board members. The subcommittees that do exist at this point in time are Ed Services. We have Facilities and Wellness. We have HR. Did I leave anybody out? I think I've got them all. They all are working in conjunction to adhere to the 4 pillars that Liz will be talking about tonight in the presentation. Those 4 pillars were developed by the County Office of Ed, along with other members throughout the County of San Mateo that work in many different school districts, plus have different responsibility in the districts. So I want board members, and I also want all our community members and parents who are listening, that this is a very rough draft. This is the very beginning for us. I was with the Chamber of Commerce this afternoon. Janet was there also, and Nancy McGee gave an overview of the framework. And in her presentation, she said that all the superintendents in the county are working on this draft. Her observation and her recommendation is that the draft will be totally ready 4 weeks before school starts. And that's mostly true for us too. There's very little time for summer vacation for us administrators that are working. This draft will be changing relatively, I will not say quickly, but in a timely fashion as we get more information from the county health department, and in turn, the county school superintendents have more dialogue. So as we present this evening, just know that this is the very beginning. From here, by the time we have our last board meeting in June, which is the 24th, we will have more of a draft with, I would say, more substance. And still, there will be a lot of questions that will be asked. Some we can answer, and some we will not be able to. So we will continue to meet during the steering committee, along with the subcommittees. We'll probably continue to meet through July, portions of July, and the board will also have meetings during July. And we can talk about that at a different time, because this is very important. I know the community has a lot of questions. There is anxiety. There's stress. We have sent out one parent survey, and we've also sent out a staff survey. And after tonight's meeting, there is another parent survey that I'll talk about a little later that hopefully will go out Friday, if not tomorrow, Friday at the latest, because it is completed and the translation has already been completed also. But I'll talk about that a little later. But what I'd like to do right now is to have Liz start the presentation with the slides that we have for you this evening. There will be a lot of questions, and we will later on have information where we'll have our questions and our answers, so they go out to the community so everybody has them. All right? Questions from board members at this time? Okay. Liz, I'll turn it over to you. You have to unmute.
I'm not sure how to bring up the PowerPoint. I sent it. I mean, I can get it off my computer, but I don't know if Eliana has it.
Do you have the PowerPoint and slides that you put up for us?
Me? Do you want me to share my screen? I don't have, John, do you want me to share my screen?
Let me see if Ellie, I don't know if Ellie can do it.
I can do, I have it on my laptop here.
Ellie, would it be best if she shared her own screen? So that it doesn't tie you up when you're looking to see if there are comments or questions.
Did you want me to share my screen?
That's what we were asking. Is it best for you? Is it best for Liz to share her own screen? So that,
It's probably best for
Yeah.
Liz to share her own
Yeah.
screen.
It's probably best for you to do that.
hey, why don't you do that, Liz? Why don't you share your screen so that Ellie can see when the public is asking questions.
So I'm not able to. I have attendee screen sharing disabled.
Ah,
You have to be enabled.
okay. So that's, I will. Okay. Well, well. Liz, you are in as a panelist.
I'm not able to share my screen.
Okay. Oh, try it now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're good?
We're good.
All right. Let's get started here. So this is just the beginning of our Ed Services presentation that we put out to the school sites on Monday of this week. We're all very confused right now and we're doing our best. And so this is just kind of an indication of how we're feeling. On Monday, we asked the school sites to bring together their teachers to have a conversation about where we are right now, as John was talking about the different subcommittees and what we know at this moment in time, and get the feedback from the teachers and the staff at each school site about our presentation in terms of recommendations, as well as to record any questions or comments that they have. And so we'll be getting briefly through all of that. And so basically what we started off with in terms of our presentation is what John was talking about in terms of the county office guidance. And that county office guidance is being updated on a regular basis. And it's actually kind of loosening up a little bit in terms of how we can go about our planning. And so what we know so far is that the recommendation from the county, and particularly from the county health department, is that we're implementing a phased approach in reopening schools. The beginning of school is not going to be like it was this last year where everybody shows up all happy and excited. It's going to be very different from that. They're making a recommendation that we have a phased in approach, and we'll go through these phases, and that we have a strong commitment and focus on maximizing our instructional time and high quality interventions and support, because what we know is that this wasn't a very successful time for some students. And so how do we identify who those students are and how do we provide the interventions for them? Whereas some of the other components that we've been able to focus on in the past, like interest-based activities, sports, youth leadership, those are kind of falling to the wayside at first until the phasing in opens up a little bit more. So for phase one, this is the minimum of 2 weeks, and this would probably be at the first couple of weeks of school. The recommendation for phase one is that there are no on-campus visitors, including volunteers. And so what's tricky, of course, about this is that means no parents are able to walk onto the campus with their children. There are no extracurricular activities. All of the meetings are held remotely. no gatherings, and that face coverings are worn at all times by the teachers, by the children, by everyone on campus, including during class. When that opens up a little bit, the restrictions are modified a bit, and that there would be instructionally impactful volunteers, and how that's defined, we're not really sure, and visitors only allowed on campus. And there would be some opportunities for instructionally based extracurricular activities. Meetings continue to be held remotely, and that we could start to have small gatherings, but of no more than 10, and face coverings continue to be worn at all times. Again, these are the county health guidelines. Phase 3 becomes least restrictive, and that's when the campuses are much more open to allowing volunteers and visitors, having more extracurricular activities. There could be a little bit larger gatherings, but still more than 50, and that the face coverings, it sounds like this is being relaxed a bit, but face coverings are worn when students and families are coming onto campus or leaving campus and in the common areas, but it kind of makes it sound like maybe they don't have to wear them in the classroom. But again, these are the kind of guidelines that are changing all the time. What else was new for us, just as of last week, is this definition of what is a stable cohort. And so this is the guidance that is given to us about the numbers of students that we're able to bring back into a classroom. We're not able to bring back all of the students at the same time, because we have to be able to provide the guarantee that there is sufficient physical distancing while students are in the classroom or in a learning setting. And so a stable cohort is what this group now is called, where it's a group of students that stay together throughout the instructional time. What has also opened up is that this stable cohort may have more than one teacher during the instructional day. So the stable cohort, and we'll be getting more into this in just a second, is really approximately 12 to 15 students in a classroom. And those same students may have more than one teacher, so that a class of students could have, the language arts teacher could come in for a period, and then the math teacher could come in for a period while they stay together, but the teachers could come into the class. Or they could move from classroom to classroom as necessary to access the required courses. Again, in our conversations, there's still a lot of questions about this in terms of health and safety, but some of the guidelines are loosening up, whereas before all the students had to stay in the same room at the same time with one teacher and not anybody move at all. So there's a little bit more flexibility now. And another suggestion is that the stable cohort be considered, as there are a lot of specialists at the school sites, there might be intervention teachers, the RSP teachers, that there could be some opportunities for additional adults to come in and work with small groups of students. They wouldn't be able to do it in the classroom setting because the students have to stay 6 feet apart from each other, but they might be able to use some of the outdoor learning spaces for one-on-one or small group work, but there would have to be a lot of cleaning in between each one of those groups if they were to access that kind of learning environment. But things are a little bit more open than they were before, so that's the good news. So as John said earlier, what our process has been so far, and again, these are the slides for the teachers, and so they hadn't already heard this, is that the cabinet has been meeting regularly to have these conversations. The subcommittees have been meeting. We did have opportunities for the principals and assistant principals to give us some input. And then we had a small group of teachers who actually saw some of these documents prior to all of the schools seeing them, giving us some feedback and giving us some guidance in terms of the presentation of this information to the staffs. And so then as of Monday, we had input and feedback from each of the school sites. And there's a tremendous amount of input and feedback from each of the sites. And we're really happy that the staffs had the time to kind of dive into this information, again, knowing that we don't have most of the answers yet, but giving us a lot of considerations to think about as we move forward. And so as we move forward, again, tonight is the night that you can start to give us your input. We're looking forward to a robust conversation tonight and ongoing. The Superintendent's Advisory Committee will also be looking at these drafts and at these recommendations. As John mentioned earlier, each of our subcommittees will have a summer work group that is going to be working probably pretty close right up to the beginning of school with the changing guidance and being able to be nimble and flexible and do any adaptations that we need to make. And then we are also looking at how can we reach out to the parent groups, possibly holding some forums, you know, beyond sending things out online, what are some ways that we can have some conversations face-to-face virtually. So with that being said, then we have 3 basic proposed program models for returning to school in August, and none of these have details. So I just want to say that first, because there's, of course, the teachers and I'm sure the parents will have a lot of questions about how does this actually look and how will this work, and those are the elements that we have yet to work out. We've been spending our time just coming up with these basic overall constructs. And the reason we have these 3 different models is because what we know at this moment, this was from the initial survey that was sent out, approximately 15% of the parents will not send their children back to school in person unless there is a vaccine available. So that we will need to have full distance learning options, probably at each site. And again, we're finding out more specifically with the next survey that's going out, the numbers of people at each site and at each grade level that are not going to send their children back to school. We also know that there is not available space for all the students to return to the school sites together because there is that 6-foot distance expectation. So some students will be on site in a stable cohort, while some students will be engaged in distance learning in the alternate stable cohort. And so what we know is that all students and teachers will be participating in distance learning in some way, whether it's full-time or part-time. And on top of all this, we know that the trajectory of the virus is unpredictable, and there's a strong belief that there will be a surge of cases in the fall. And so if that happens, then we will need to be ready to pivot to a full distance learning model again. So with that, these are the 3 options. So option 1 is full distance learning. So this is everybody at every site involved in distance learning. And so again, there are no specifics about this. This is just our recommendations around, there's no information about scheduling or anything other than each student would receive a schedule of lessons at the beginning of the week. Some are synchronous, some are asynchronous, some are direct instruction, some are individual work, some are practice and follow-up lessons. And our teachers this week are going through professional development around all of the tools that are going to be available to them to support distance learning. Students will receive these lessons and complete work Monday through Thursday in groups or individually, and that these lessons will continue to be focused on priority standards and as best as possible be integrated lessons. We know that even with a full distance learning model, there will be some special ed programs that need to be offered on site. And so we are working simultaneously with the special ed department as to see what that would look like and how to keep the children and the teachers who are on site safe. Our recommendation is that Fridays would be days for students to have other kinds of activities that could be designed by staff or might be involved with other providers, and that Fridays would be the day for teachers to have really sacred protected time for planning and collaborating, that this would not be the day for faculty meetings, but they could reach across their grade levels. We know that there are teachers who are interested in kind of collaborating with teachers across the district at their grade levels, particularly if they're in bilingual programs, to share materials. So those are some of the conversations that we're starting to have as well. So that's option 1. Option 2 is the full hybrid model. And this is where everybody comes back to school in stable cohorts, where again, that's 12 to 15 students, depending on county health guidance. Right now they say 12, and that number may increase a little bit, but then we would have to ensure that there was sufficient space in our classrooms for more than 12. Half of the cohorts are on campus, and the other half are participating in distance learning, and then they switch. And so there's a variety of possibilities of what that switch could look like. There could be a Monday, Tuesday group and a Wednesday, Thursday group. It could be a Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday cohort, or it could be a week on, week off. Some of our neighboring districts are proposing a week on, week off. You may have heard about that. But we're also looking at 2 days a week, whether it be 2 connected days or 2 split up days. We're looking at that. Again, some special ed student programs would need to be offered on site every day. And that, again, the Fridays would be designed for students in a variety of different ways, different activities. And then the Fridays for teachers would be their sacred protected time for planning. And most likely what we're going to end up with is this hybrid model, which is some students are on distance learning and some students are coming to school in stable cohorts. We know that even if not, we're not all on distance learning, if there's been something with the virus that everybody has to stay at home, there are parents who, as I said earlier, are not going to be sending their students back to school until there's a vaccine. So there will always be students on distance learning. And there are a lot of students that want to come back to school. And so there will be the opportunity for those students to come back to school, while there will be the opportunity for the students to have full-time at home. Again, this is a challenge to try to figure out how to do this. We have no idea at this time who's going to be the teachers in these different situations. And so those are all things that need to be worked out. But given this, then what still is true for this option 3, as in the other 2 options, there will be some special ed programs that are offered on site every day. And that Fridays are, again, designed by schools or other providers as extra activities for students and protected time for teachers. So these were it says closing thought here, but I still have a few more slides after this. These were the closing thoughts that we left with the teachers as we then asked them to come up with the pros and cons and their questions about each one of those models, as well as questions about health and safety, technology, ed services, and HR. And they gave us those questions. And I'm going to give you sort of the high level overview of what the themes were in those questions. But we said, you know, we are in this together. We know that there are so many things that are changing right now, that this is incumbent upon us to kind of redesign education as we know it. It very likely will never go back to be what it was back in August and September of this past school year. So as we think about this, we really need to think of this as an opportunity as well. It's an extraordinary challenge, but this is that opportunity to really take and look at what is working in this environment and continue to strengthen that, excuse me, and then to improve it for the students and the families for whom it did not work these past few months. So the feedback that we were asking the teachers from each side is, what are the pros and cons and questions that you have for the options? And then how can we make the best of this changing situation as we prepare for August? What do you need as teachers, and what input do we need to have from you to help in this planning? So these were sort of the high level themes. Again, all of their questions are written down on documents, and the different subgroups will be taking them into consideration as they plan. But I would say that the number one concern is the health and safety of the adults as well as for the children. And so a lot of that revolves around the cleaning of the rooms and the restrooms, and the regularity with which that is done. Wearing masks, what happens if the kids don't wear masks to school? What happens if they need to take them off? What happens if they're having trouble breathing? You know, really basic, fundamental, important questions that are challenging to answer. Who takes their temperatures? What happens if they're sick? Who sends them home? What if there's nobody there to come pick them up? That kind of thing. Staff with health issues, you know, what if there are underlying health issues? Are those the teachers who are going to get assigned just to the distance learning? You know, those kinds of things. What happens if a student or teacher gets infected? Does the class get quarantined for a couple of weeks? You know, so those, again, very important questions. And then even things as basic as the parents walking their kids onto campus, particularly TK and K kids for their first day of school. Are they not going to be allowed to do that? There's questions around technology. There's a concern about devices, and I know Kyle has done a lot of work to ensure that there are sufficient devices, but people still ask. Internet access, of course, has been a concern when there are multiple people in the same household trying to be on the internet at the same time. That's run, you know, into a lot of problems with, you know, strong enough access to signals. There's a question about the little guys, the TK through 2, and are they really well prepared to flourish in a distance learning environment? And then how can we support the parents if their parents are not as adept at using the internet and to using the programs and helping monitor their students or give them support if they need some help? You know, what kind of support can we give to the parents as well? So these are also really important questions. Questions around the program option full distance learning, or even probably the part-time of distance learning. There, particularly in the upper grades, there are questions about what kind of accountability measures can we put into place to encourage students to finish their work and keep track of that. Again, the grade level questions for TK through 2, what is the appropriateness for full distance learning for little tiny guys? Parent support and outreach, so there's again some overlap with this and the other with technology. And then of course, how do we make connections with our students the first few weeks of school if we're not in school? Hopefully we will be, at least with the stable cohorts. How do we make those really important initial connections with our students? And then what happens with small group instruction? That's harder to do in a distance learning environment. The hybrid, what happens to the pacing guides when 50% of the time is at home? You know, does that impact how much gets taught? Behavior management, what happens if there's a behavior problem in the class and the student is sent to the office? Are they allowed just to walk to the office? Is the principal, you know, allowed to have, what if 2 or 3 people are sent to the office at the same time? You know, just basic logistical questions like that. And even the passing between the rooms is a question, right? When students have to walk in lines of 6 feet distance, who's going to be monitoring that? And particularly if they're moving around the campus, how does that happen safely? And those are only some of the questions. And then in addition, there's other concerns, childcare being probably one of the top concerns. Childcare not only for the families, if they've got kids at home still, either full-time or part-time, and for the teachers. Students in the same family on different schedules, how would we coordinate if students are at different schools, that if they're on a stable schedule, stable cohort schedule, how can we ensure that they were on the Monday, Tuesday schedule or the every other day schedule together? Or should we not do that if they need the older children to stay home and do some childcare? And then of course the teaching assignments, right? Who will be teaching distance learning? Who will be teaching the hybrid? We had a conversation as well, encouraging the teachers of younger children to think about doing some team teaching so that they would not be fully responsible for both in-class and distance learning in all the subject areas, and possibly partner up with other teachers at their grade level and specialize in a subject area. So we had some conversations about that. And that's it for me.
Okay. As you can see, Liz and the group have been working diligently on this plan, and there are a lot of questions. We don't have all the answers. I think with the meeting that the staff, and by staff there were teachers and there were instructional assistants at Monday's meeting, along with the principals, because each school had the slides to show, along with some video from each of the team leaders for each subcommittee to give an overview of where we were. And so there were many, many questions. And as I look at the questions that I was presented with, and we have some answers, there are a lot that we still have to find the answers for, which I'm hoping to do within the rest of this week and first part of next week, so we can get those back out to the subcommittee. The questions will also be shared, the Q&As, when it goes home in a newsletter to all parents, so they can see what those questions, what the answers were to them. And then also to all board members, you'll have copies of them also. So this is a time for you, board members, to engage with us in a dialogue in regard to what we've presented so far. And then we can also entertain your questions about how we move forward. The plan, as I said previously, you'll get another rough draft on the 24th. But then in July, like the middle of July, is when we have to come up with, definitely this is the way in which we're going. But understanding if there is a surge in the virus, that the county can shut us down right away and go distance learning automatically. So I'll open it up to you.
Does anybody have any questions or comments at this point? Let's see, where's Elisa? Oh, there you are.
There she is.
I think one question is, is the options, are they going to be the decisions made as a district as a whole, or are each school is making their own choices?
Okay, that's been a question from the schools. So what I need now is I need more information from parents. As you recall, the last survey, the first one we sent out, we had 1,700 responses. I need more than that. So with that being said, the next survey is going out, like I said, I'll talk to Jorge about this tomorrow. It goes out tomorrow or it goes out Friday. We have to have a response from each parent because that is going to determine a lot of what we are going to do. In order to get those responses, we're going to work very carefully with the community school coordinators, carefully with our office staff at school sites to, they're there for another, Wendy, how many more days? I cannot keep that in mind.
The office staff will be here for another 10 more days.
So that they can help us with the tracking and phone calling of parents that we need your information. If you could please let us have it right now, we'll go through the questions with you. But I need parent information. It's really required. It's great for the parents that responded to the last survey and gave us a lot to think about with the questions that they asked, but I need everyone to complete it. So with that being said, Janet, in answer to your question, it's going to determine how the parents respond to this survey.
Got it. Thank
I
you.
already know, as Liz said, from the first survey, there's about 15% that are not sending the kids back. And there could be more now. I'm right now I'm just guessing. There could be more.
And then Liz, you had mentioned possibly having all distance learning at each of the school sites. Is there an opportunity to, say if we have 5 kinders at one school and 5 at another, that there could be one teacher for all of those kids, even though they're not all from the same school site?
So we had originally talked about that as an option, is that they're kind of like located through one site, right? So a lot of it depends on the numbers. So I think if it's just a small number, which is what John was referring to when we find out specifically from what the parents plan to do, if it's a very small number of students at one grade level, that would be a consideration that we might want to have. Given that at all times, half of a cohort would be on distance learning as well. So that might be something we want to see. We could see if we could blend them into the cohort that was working at home.
Mm.
I don't know. A lot of it depends on the numbers.
Right. So we have a number of speakers cards. I don't know if, okay, Dennis, go ahead.
So I totally understand why you want 100% of the parents, because that's going to drive what you do. But don't we need to do the same thing with the teachers and staff?
Wendy has put out that staff survey, and Wendy, we talked about that at the last meeting, if I'm not remiss, correct?
Right. I do think it's timely, though, to probably send one more quick one out now that we have more information. But yes, we do have data from the last one that we did send out. And it's similar in nature to the parent survey about concerns about coming back or wanting information about leaves and things like that. So my office is reaching out to each of those staff members to find out are they just seeking information, or are they really serious about about considering not returning. So that's the work we're doing right now.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Should we go to the speakers cards? Okay. So our first speaker is Alexandra Sawiski. So, Alexandra, are you here under a different name maybe? If you are, can you raise your hand? Do you see her, Kyle?
I don't.
Okay. We'll keep checking back for that. The next speaker would be Sarah Costello Yarder. Sorry, I'm looking at 2 pages here. Yeah.
No, I don't see her either.
Okay. These were cards that were put in a few days ago, so they may not be here. Okay. The next would be Erin Allred.
ERIN.
Yes. Erin, I don't see you. Are you here?
No, I don't see that name either.
Next is, just checking if she's here. Catherine Stewart. I think she did pop in.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, are you here or did you?
Yeah, she's there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Catherine, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Super. Okay, so I have three things. They're really, first one was about reestablishing the intra-district or out-of-district transfer students. The second one was about asking parents which academic subjects they want. I would like Mandarin immersion, language, writing, and math, which is Mandarin mathematics taught in Mandarin, as well as writing and reading Mandarin characters and saying things in the Mandarin language. Because we're in an immersion program, I would like to have that for my kid at least Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for a full hour for each of those topics. I can do things like teach my kid math and other stuff in English, and pretty much any other subject I can easily get in English, but it's very hard to get interactive, high quality teaching because we've had really good teachers in the Mandarin program, and I'd like to continue to do that even if it's online. And at least an hour every day would be great, but at least Monday, Wednesday, and Friday interactively. And the second part would be if we could ask parents, I plan to keep my kid home in the beginning, but if you could ask parents who need to work, which schedule hours do they want to work? Because that way they can keep their jobs if they have to go to work. And for the parents who can keep their kid at home, can you let us sign up to say we want to keep our kid home now? That way you know how many people you're dealing with who are going to keep their kids home anyway, or would be willing to keep their kid home. And that way you'd know how many people you have to deal with on campus. And I think that all the proposals about 2 days on and 2 days off and every other week and all that is meaningless if you don't know when those people have to show up to work, because many of their jobs, they can't write their own schedule. They won't be allowed to do that. So to keep their job, we as parents will have to cooperate to make it possible for them to keep their jobs, which is really important. So I don't know if anybody else had other comments, but those were my quick ones.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Christy Herrera.
C or a K?
A K. She is here. I found her.
I see, unless she's at the top. There we go. Okay.
Hi, Christy.
Hi, everybody.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you guys for letting me speak tonight. My name is Christy Herrera. I just finished my 19th year as a kindergarten teacher. My whole family has lived or worked in Redwood City our entire lives. My children and I are all products of the Redwood City School District. My husband, son, and I all work for the district. My family is very involved in the community, not only through school, but through youth soccer. So the passion that you're going to hear in my voice tonight comes from a staunch belief in the city, the school district, and in our teachers. Teachers are the ones on the front lines delivering not only curriculum, but social emotional learning to children, and we need to have our concerns heard and taken seriously. As an experienced kindergarten teacher, I feel I can speak knowledgeably to what this unique set of children need, what is developmentally appropriate, and what is realistic in terms of classroom dynamics and academic expectations. I want to speak specifically on the proposed models for instruction for re-entry. My opinion is mine, but I have spoken to many of my colleagues, and we all have real concerns about what is reasonable to expect come August. We're given 3 options for the fall, but in reality, option 2, which is a model with half the students on campus at any given time, cannot exist when we know that at least 15% of the families won't be sending their children until a vaccine is available. So that means that option 3, the hybrid with some students learning 100%, combined with the AD model on campus, is our only choice outside of 100% distance learning. This model is too much work to expect classroom teachers to manage. Teachers spend extra time outside of school every day already, and with this model, we'll spend even longer because there really is no way to do it all. So here are my concerns from a kindergarten teacher perspective. In a normal setting, we spend weeks acclimating students to school with routines, expectations, forming relationships, and building community at the same time that we're teaching them academics. Now picture these first few weeks of school in COVID-19 times. No parents or volunteers are allowed on campus for at least the first 2 weeks. 5-year-olds would have to make it to the classroom on their own or with a sibling who's a student at the school. If they're able to leave their parents and make it to class, they may be scared and there are always some tears. We won't be allowed to hold their hands, hug, or comfort them as we have to maintain our distance. We're all going to be wearing masks, which will add to their anxiety. They can't see us smile as we greet them. They won't be able to see our mouths form as we form sounds for phonics instruction. We'll be spending nearly all of our time in the classroom dealing with normal transitions, social distancing rules, policing PPEs, and hand washing. There'll be very little academic instruction happening, not because we don't want to, but because we won't be able to while managing the natural behavior of 5-year-olds. So with these county regulations in place, we're going to have to approach in-person school differently for kindergarten. I strongly feel that our 5-year-old friends should not be expected to handle so much all at once. We need to think outside the box and spend time to develop an online learning model that allows them to acclimate into school in a positive way at the same time as learning new content. That way we can reduce the amount of trauma and anxiety for all of us. These kids deserve a positive first school experience. So for these reasons, many colleagues and I feel the best way to effectively teach our incoming kindergartners and even TK students the new curriculum that we're mandated to teach is to do it in a 100% distance learning environment. Thank you.
So if I could just say something real quick. Christy is on the subcommittee for the educational services. So Christy, make sure that, you know, when you're on this, you're going to be on the committee, you're representing, I believe, RCTA, if not mistaken, that you are a kindergarten teacher, which we value wholeheartedly. So make sure that, you know, this is brought up during your subcommittee meeting.
I will, thank you.
Thanks so much, Christy. I see Sarah Yarder is here. She came back and has her hand raised, Kyle.
Okay.
Hi, Sarah, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you, everyone, for taking this. So my concern is the first woman who did speak. I am an essential worker, and I know there's many of us in the district as a parent with children going to the district, and we can't not go to work and not take care. Like I'm a nurse in a hospital. I can't just not go to work to be able to teach the kids at home. And so I'm hoping that you all come up with a plan for those of us that have to go to work and can't do the hybrid, to help us figure out what is the alternative for our children. What is the is there a plan, you know, to maybe have a core group childcare or something like that to help our kids on the days that they're not on campus when we have to go to work regardless. That's it.
That's a question that was asked, you know, that we got many questions on the parent survey, the original childcare for especially parents that are essential workers that are not able to, you know, work from home. So that is one thing that's already on our mind. And I know many of you have, like I said previously, many of you by board members have been on those county calls. And I know Elisa and Janet, and Dennis, and Maria, they've been talking a lot about childcare and seeing if we can't get something that is possibly county-wide or the city can help us. But yeah, that is a big question. That's one of our biggest because that came back in large quantities from the first survey, and I'm expecting it to come back again because we do have it on there on this survey going out.
Okay, thank you. Looking, our next speaker is Sandy Hoover. She was here. I don't see her name. Sandy, if you're here, do you want to? Oh, somebody's got their hand raised. Oh, okay. That must be her with the hand raised, Kyle.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sandy Hoover, and I teach at Clifford. I teach TK. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight to all of you. I didn't come just to advocate for my sweet little TK students. I came to advocate for all of us. I came to advocate for teachers, for support staff, for administrators, for the kids and their families. I think the primary goal of Redwood City is two goals. One is to keep all the staff, students, and families safe at all times, and to deliver an appropriate, engaging, comprehensive curriculum. So it is my opinion that the best model to use to do this is the full distance learning model. This model will allow all of us who work at RCSD and go to school there to stay away from the COVID-19 and keep our families safe as well. It would allow the children to acclimate themselves to school and to learn about their classmates, their new teachers, while being safe at home. And we can teach them how to use the devices and all the PPE and teach them rules and routines so that when they come back to school, they will have had a positive introduction to school instead of all of us being behind masks all day. And thank you very much. We'd like to go back and be able to enjoy teaching and learning together, but we'd like all of us to be safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy. Next is Sarah LaTorra.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much to all of the excellent teachers that worked so hard during this shelter-in-place time. I really want to congratulate the excellent teaching that occurred at Clifford Elementary School, and our administration was amazing. I'm a parent of a 3rd grader and a 5th grader, and one of my concerns is that students with vision, auditory, and sensory issues will have a challenge learning in a classroom setting wearing a mask at all times. As a parent of a child who wears glasses, I have witnessed firsthand the frustrations my daughter has using a mask when her glasses fog up and she can't see. I just see this as a barrier to her being able to learn. And I hope that if they're able to be in their own 6-foot bubble, they'll have an opportunity to not wear the mask when they're sitting at their desk. And then of course, when you stand up, you move around, you have to wear the mask, but that would then allow her to learn. I understand if they get up and work with partners, definitely masks should be worn at all times. And let's see, what else? I also feel that if you have, it would be great if we can try as much as possible to provide an opportunity for parents that have multiple students to have them on a consistent schedule if that's what they need, because scheduling daycare is going to be that much more challenging if my 2 kids can't be in the same daycare because they're on different schedules. Let's see, my next one is, I would like, sorry, gotta find my notes. I hope that if we are planning to have parents and students from all the sites that are doing distance learning full-time, that we can create classrooms that have a teacher that also does not want to return to the classroom able to teach them, because it doesn't really, they don't need a physical classroom, and you're able to then group students together from across the district in this virtual classroom, and they'll have one consistent teacher. And then I was also very happy to hear that you are thinking more about the team teaching. I think this is an opportunity where our students will be able to have enhanced learning from teachers that are teaching to the subjects they know best. And then finally, thank you for all of your consideration for this. I appreciate the challenges of this momentous task ahead of you. And as a person who handles a great deal of scheduling challenges for staff, I know the challenges you face, and I'm happy to be a resource to the district or specifically to my principal. I know you will find the best path forward, and thank you for the time you will spend on this topic over the summer. That's it. Thank you.
So if I could just mention one thing to Sarah, the piece about the scheduling, that's our intention, is to make sure that the families, if you have several children, they're on the same schedule. We do the same thing for schools of choice, making sure that the child is at school of choice make sure they get the next child, the sibling gets to go. So our thought is definitely have children the same.
I lost audio. Okay, there you go, John. So, and I also want to say, just from my calls with, the county office of ed and the other county leaders, it sounds like the mask wearing is a lot more flexible than it's coming across right now. And that the students will have the opportunity to take them off as needed, especially for those ones who are extra sensitive to it. So there is some flexibility there. So don't read the mask requirement and think that it's going to be 100% of people 100% of the time.
Right, that portion of the plan has already changed as of today a bit, and so I'm sure you'll hear about it in the next phone call that you have with the county.
Great. Okay, next is Jacqueline Rodriguez.
I'm not seeing it. Do you see it?
There, I just checked she was there.
Her hand is up.
Her hand's up.
Hand up at the top. Okay.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Hola.
Hola, ¿me escuchan? Gracias. Agradezco el espacio que nos dan para escuchar nuestras opiniones. Mi nombre es Jacqueline Rodríguez, soy una madre líder con Innovate y mi hija asiste a Hoover School. Primero que todo, quiero agradecer a Tusti McAvoy y Márquez por reunirse con nosotros anoche. Y también quiero agradecer a Tusti McBride y Díaz por confirmar nuestra reunión para el próximo lunes. Anoche, Tusti McAvoy dijo que una de las maneras que padres de familia pueden involucrarse en el distrito es a través de los diferentes comités. Hoy, como grupo de padres líderes del distrito, queremos proponer la creación de un comité de regreso a la escuela, donde como padres podemos colaborar con el distrito para tomar las mejores decisiones con nuestros hijos. Agradezco mucho este espacio y espero que tomen en consideración esta idea. Gracias.
Thank you. Gracias, Jacqueline. Did our translators catch that?
Mm-hmm. And so Itzel should be able to speak now to translate.
Perfect. Thank you.
Give me 1 second. Okay, so thank you. I want to say thank you to the space that you guys give us to hear our concerns. My name is Jacqueline Rodriguez, and I am a mother that is a leader. My daughter attends to Hoover School. First than anything, I want to say thank you to Trustee McAvoy and to meet with us last night. And I also want to say thank you to the Trustee McBride and Diaz to have a meeting with us next Monday. Yesterday, Trustee McAvoy said that one of the ways that the parents can be involved in the district is through different committees. So today, as a group of parents of the district, we want to propose the creation of a committee to return to school, where as a parent, we can collaborate with the district to have the best decisions regarding our children. So I really want to say thank you to all for this space, and hopefully you guys take into consideration our words. Thank you.
Thanks so much. It looks like, she went away. One of our first speakers, Alexandra Sawiski, you just had your hand up. Are you here?
Alexandra Sawiski?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, Alexandra, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, 5th grade graduation. So I was a little late. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up the concerns about, I think some other people have touched on this, but being an essential worker, the past, few months have been really a big struggle for me as my kid's only guardian as well. So I just have some concerns about moving forward into next year, what it's going to look like for support for those of us that have to work and can't be with our children, as well as what supports will be in place for us non-Spanish speakers to kind of help our children more so with the Spanish part, because that's something that I've really been struggling with. Because we're from Adelante, that's probably helpful.
Okay, thanks, Alexandra. I think that was mentioned probably before you came in that we have been working with the city and the county to talk about how to how they can work with us to provide childcare for the parents who have to work, the essential workers, and the ones who are being called back in. So that's definitely something that we are looking at right now. Let's see. Maria Elena, where's your last name? Atiaga, but I don't see her. Kyle, do you see Maria Elena Atiaga?
I say, yeah, I see her.
Hands up.
Oh, hands up, got it. Oh, go ahead. Nope, you're muted now. Elena, you're muted. If you can unmute yourself. Kyle, are you able to get that?
I can't. I've tried to unmute her. It says talking permitted, but I've tried to. She's got to do it on her side.
Oh, there you go.
¿Sí me escuchan?
Yes.
Sí.
Ok. Pues buenas noches. Mi nombre es María Elena Arteaga. Soy una madre líder con Innovate Public School y mi hijo asiste a Red Club. Y yo quiero que tomen en consideración lo que Jacqueline dijo acerca de hacer un comité para que los padres estemos involucrados en tomar las decisiones de cómo los niños van a regresar a la escuela el próximo año. Y nada más ese era mi comentario y darle gracias también a las personas de la Junta de la Directiva que estuvieron ayer con nosotros y a las otras personas que se van a reunir con nosotros la otra semana. Y eso es todo. Gracias.
Yes. Itzel, are you translating that one?
Yes. So good evening. My name is Maria Elena Arteaga. I am a leader mom, and my son attends to Red Club. I do want you guys to take into consideration what Jacqueline said regarding to create a committee for parents to be involved in the decision of how the children are going to go back to school next year. And well, that was only my comment. And I also wanted to say thank you to the people in the board that were with us yesterday, and also the people that is going to have a meeting with us next week. And that would be it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our next speaker is Jenny Overby. Hi, Jenny, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for allowing us to speak tonight.
Accidentally muted her.
Uh-oh.
So my mistake here. Okay.
Wow.
Let's try that again.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I would like to send out a few thank yous. My first one is to Dr. Baker for requesting our teachers to have this week for training for next year. When I first heard that we would not be with our kids at the end of the year for 1 week, I was really sad, but having been in the trainings only for 3 days, I feel that it's so incredibly valuable. It's giving us a leg up to start the year in the most productive way we possibly can, and I appreciate it. Thank you to the board for agreeing to let the teachers have this incredibly valuable time. Thank you to our principal, who has been incredibly supportive, not just during this time of shelter in place, but always, and especially this week, really hearing us, listening to us, and I just cannot appreciate him enough. And want to say thank you so much to get us as much training and all of the tools possible so we can start the year, whatever that may be, with as many tools and setting us up for success. Over the last few months, our Redwood City frontline essential workers, our custodians, our nutritional services, our technology team have been working since school closed. And as school approaches, that number of Redwood City frontline essential workers is only going to grow. I was wondering if you have a plan in place for COVID testing for all of our staff, weekly, bi-weekly, at school sites, at the district office. Keeping our community safe is just paramount. You know, we have said over and over again that our #1 priority is health and safety. Testing our entire Redwood City essential worker community is integral. And I'm just wondering what your plan is for ongoing testing to ensure the safety of all of our staff, everyone who comes in contact with our amazing community, and in doing so, helping our community stay safe as well. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate all of your support and everything you're doing for us. Have a great night.
So if I can answer that last part for Jenny. And Jenny, thank you so much for all that you've been doing and for also letting us know how important the PD has been this week. I'm really glad that you're taking advantage of it. And many teachers, all our teachers are taking advantage of it. So in regard to the testing, so when the superintendents meet, we meet several times a week with the county superintendent, and that's one of the things that we have asked for. How can we have consistent testing? It probably would not be at every school site, but maybe it can be locally within Redwood City, where all our staff members can get tested as often as needed. And so I know it's going back to the county health department to see how they can help us with that. So I know right now there is free testing in Redwood City, and I believe Wendy Kelly sent out a message to all staff members within Redwood City School District of where those free testing sites are. What we as superintendents are asking for is for a site to be located, maybe if it can't be within each district, maybe it's within districts that are close to one of us, so our staff can go on a regular basis and test.
Dr. Baker, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm just hoping that we can all be tested, maybe possibly even a mandated testing before we can go back and be in contact with our community. Thank you so much. I appreciate you letting us know what the progress is with that.
Thanks, Jenny. Next speaker is Abid Kamal, A-B-I-D. Got him. Okay, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
All right. So I had a couple of questions, and I can take them one at a time or as you would like. But my first question was, do you have any guidance based on actual data as to which one is a better approach? A model with actual teachers teaching online versus a model where teachers are pointing students to online packaged modules, for instance, Khan Academy, Dreambox, etc. And I bring this up because I'm currently teaching a class, a graduate level class at Stanford, and I'm finding that I need a lot more direct teacher to student time versus before for the students to really gain what I expect them to gain from the class. I think that this would be lost if I was just pointing students to package curriculum, if it even existed at this level. Thank you.
So at this point in time, as superintendents up and down the county, we have been trying to garner data that would help us in that facet. The last, and there, let me be perfectly honest with you, there isn't one that poses one model is better than another. There was an article in the New York Times a few weeks back, and it did talk a bit about the distance and the in-classroom learning on alternate basis. And look at that article. It doesn't give you true proof that one is better than the other, but it did allude to the point that the more often that children get to spend time with their teachers, the type of stress, the anxiety that occurs during the time that they're doing just total distance learning is subsided. So, but when you're talking about data, which one is better than the other, we have not been able to find one at this point in time. We have been looking, and we've asked the County Office of Education if they could also use the resources they have to give us some more data on both those types of learning models.
All right, thank you. And then I just had a quick second question, and that's with regard to us deciding to end early this year. I understand this is for teacher training, which is absolutely appreciated. However, is there a plan to make up for the lost instructional hours? And also, I know that we're always worried about finances. Are we being paid for these lost instructional hours? Thank you.
Good question. Are we getting paid for these lost instructional time? No, the state is not doing that at this point in time, so that we can do something additional for our students to help bridge that loss in learning. We are trying to determine as students come back, and it's one of the trainings that the teachers have gone to this week, and making sure that we assess our students before they come back so we can see where that learning loss is. If there is funding, which we kind of hope that there will be funding from the state.
Hi everyone, this is Amy Schrader here to give you a demo.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I forgot where I was at. So if there is funding that comes from the state that will allow us to do some additional teaching with our students for that loss of learning, we'll definitely pick up and do it quickly. We have always had these different types of intervention groups after school for children in the past, but because of the cleaning that needs to take place after the students leave that are at school, we're unable to keep students after school. But that doesn't mean that there couldn't be some type of distance model that could work with the students that have had this learning loss. But I will just need to work with the board, and I will work also with our teachers, and then hope that we receive some additional funding to pay our teachers to work some extra time. Hopefully that's all I have as far as an answer for that piece right now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everything that you and all of our teachers are doing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Our next speaker is Michelle Smith. Hi, Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
It happened again.
Kyle, did you boot her again?
Yes.
All right, Michelle, try again. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say, so a lot of the questions that I had were already answered, but I did have some questions mostly, and then just sort of to reinforce what some of the other speakers have said. One of them is all of the models have Fridays off, and not like, I guess what would make most sense to me in terms of like sanitation and cleaning would be to have like a Wednesday off, similar to how we have Thursdays as early days, just to allow for that midweek break and allow more time for cleaning. That was just one of my questions as to why Friday was chosen rather than Wednesday.
We're looking at all possibilities. The Wednesday was just brought up to us, matter of fact, today by our facility department. So, like I said previously, nothing is set in stone. We are taking input, And that was an item that was brought up today to Liz and myself in a meeting that we had with our facilities.
Okay. The next question that I had was regarding the stable cohorts. And again, I think that this may have been already answered with saying that, like the masks were a little bit looser in terms of usage, especially since those same students would be staying together throughout school. But I really think about the younger children who really are not going to be able to maintain that 6-foot separation, and how how teachers are going to really sort of police that, or if it's even possible. The other is regarding sort of the distance learning, and again, this I think it was also addressed, but I just wanted to sort of support and reinforce for our teachers having to teach every day, 4 days a week, and then also provide distance learning material. I think that the idea of having a teacher that is across the district for remote learning is a really great idea. However, it presents an issue, particularly with our language immersion programs, where we've lost 3 months of true language immersion for our kids. All we can hope is that they have been able to sustain their level of fluency. But particularly for kinder and first grade, that dual immersion is just so critical. And for families who do not have any Spanish speakers at home, just being able to try to find ways that we can increase the Spanish learning, be it through, even if it's not through direct teaching, but having conversation groups or something like that, just things to really focus on. And even for the kids who are not in language immersion, I think that social aspect is really important. And I think that is all I really had to say. But I appreciate all of the work and effort that is going into all of this. I know that everything is continually changing. I guess my last question would be, when do you expect to have this finalized by? Because I think that for all of us, it is, we're all trying to plan. Summer's already kind of gone by the wayside.
It's my plan to bring a final, and again, I'll just say that it's the draft at the moment, but the final one, probably mid-July to have it done by then.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry. Before I leave, I just want to also just support, and I have a very flexible work schedule, and my husband does too, so we are not in this position, but I feel like I just need to reinforce that we really, really have to get a handle and wrangle all of the childcare stuff for not just our families, but our teachers as well. So I hope that we can all work together to make sure that all of our kids have at least a safe place to be during the day. That's all. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you, Michelle. Our next speaker is Dana Sutherland, and I'm not seeing her.
Could you spell that?
Dana Sutherland, D-A-N-A S-U-T-H-E-R-L-A-N-D.
No, I'm not seeing it as well.
Okay. Next is Mercedes Northern. Mercedes, did you go away? No, wait.
She went to the top. She raised her hand and went to the top.
She's here. She's here.
Hi. Hello. Hi. So I am Mercedes Northern. I'm a parent in Adelante. I am here with my husband.
So we're both at the podium together, if that's all right with you. So what we want to say is as follows. We want to talk make a slightly different point, which is a point that comes from many parents that we have spoken to. And the question really we have is this: we know that you guys are struggling with many different decisions. We know teachers that are struggling with a very tough situation that they've been thrown into. The question is really this: what is the goal? How high is the bar in terms of educational expectations in the new scenario. And what I mean by that, or what we mean by that specifically, is this, because these are the concerns that we're hearing from lots of parents. Many schools around the world, and I know this doesn't include many schools around the world have basically switched kind of immediately to a model which is online teaching what they used to do in person, and haven't removed the expectations, haven't lowered those expectations, haven't removed grading, delivering an interactive experience. We know that that's tough to do. We know there's a lot of extra time required in order to prepare curriculum and so forth. The question is, where are we going to get to in the new school year? Do we have an expectation that we're going to get back to grading? Do we have an expectation that we're not going to have teachers who continue to say, doesn't matter whether you do the work or not? Are we going to get back to a stage where there's a proper amount of interactivity between the teachers and the students, as opposed to the current scenario where much of the teaching is actually not teaching, but the assigning of tasks, and then some amount of follow-up, which varies. And the reason for obviously asking all this is because while we really understand that it's very, very tough, we need to know that there is at least a goal to try and get the education back for the kids to where it more or less was. We hope it's possible within the current environment, or at least the intention is to get there. And it's particularly, of course, crucially important, as Dr. Baker was just explaining, in terms of the anxiety level of kids, but even more importantly, how are these children going to get the interactivity they need to learn Spanish if there's almost no interaction? So I suppose the short question after the long kind of treatise is, what are our goals? Are we planning to get back to 50% interactivity? Are we planning to get back to mostly grading the way we were, or do we not have any idea about those things at all?
At this time, we are still working on all of that. I can't give you a specific answer to either of your questions right now.
We don't have a goal? We don't have a goal?
We have been talking goals, but we're talking goals with our staff. Because you know, this whole piece of us pivoting all of a sudden to distance learning, our staff was never trained in that, to go in that direction. That was never part of any of our staff members who are teachers, had that in their teacher preparation, or administrators either. So at this point in time, we are starting out from where we were, and then we are also looking at what we can accomplish, coming back with a hybrid model, coming back with a distance learning model. And once we have those pieces in place, having conversation with our staff, because they are the ones that are actually going to be the ones implementing programs, then I can give you more specifics on these questions that you're asking right now. I know that doesn't help, but this is where we are right now, and that's why we are bringing staff members. By staff members, teachers, and also instructional assistants. And others.
So perhaps it's just as a follow-up, it'd be worth just mentioning this, because we appreciate it, and there are many, many challenges, and obviously the biggest challenge for parents, we happen to be lucky enough not to have this massive challenge, at least not yet, is the business of childcare and how they deal with it. The issue that we're raising, again, having spoken with many, many parents, is that many of the kids who were excelling, and many of the kids who are the most deprived are really put in a very bad spot, and their parents are put in a very bad spot by not having any expectations anymore of them. You know, if the teacher's saying it doesn't matter, then the kids are not good. They're not going to be very easy for the parents to manage. So it's adding a lot of stress to all concerned, because you're requiring children to have the intrinsic motivation to drive themselves. No extrinsic drive for the teachers is challenging. And the second thing is we need to look at ways of improving the interactivity rather than just the assignment of tasks. And I know that we've heard about the training, and that's a terrific thing. It would just be good to hear maybe by the next board meeting that there are at least some goals in place to try and get some of those educational standards back within this very tough environment.
So Rex, I just want to remind you that these are really early steps, that this is just very preliminary, and there are definitely, this is being worked on, but it might not be as quick as you're hoping it will be.
Sure, I understand, Janet. Thank you for the comment.
Okay, thanks Mercedes and Rex. We're gonna move on to Rosemary Campos. Hi, Rosemary, go ahead. Rosemary, are you there? Okay, I guess we can come back to you.
Oh,
There we go.
hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So I just have a couple things. Can there be more explanation about the reasons there cannot be 5 days per week AM and PM program groups? I've heard kind of the reasoning to be financial. So can this kind of be described in more detail and further discussed? And also, I have some concerns how any of these models can adequately address the immersion component, especially for my child goes to Adelante Selby, but equally, I guess, the Mandarin immersion. And could you describe or somewhat disseminate information about how committees were formed for the decision-making process, as well as what core information was utilized in the current decision-making process? I'm just worried, about teachers who don't feel comfortable returning to school, about the online distance teachers. Like, is there, I guess, a format, or the teachers who cannot come into school or are afraid because they have health issues, will they be featured in a different component? How's that going to be addressed?
I'll take the last question first about so staff right now. We did the staff today. To Ms. Kelly, who's the assistant superintendent in HR, to determine that rationale why they could not come back to school to work. So we're in the process of doing that right now, and if they are unable to come back, what can they do? And so we're still in that mode. The other piece in regard to why can't students be at school all day long, what did you say, 5 days a week? Or did I miss that?
No.
There's a cleaning component. There's a very strict pillar of hygiene. And so we're really required to do this cleaning when students leave the classroom. And it has to be done in a manner in which we're addressing the framework that came from the county and what the county health department is requiring us to do. The reason why some school districts, I shouldn't say some, I just know of one, who was thinking of going 1 week and then coming back the next week with a different cohort, is because that's how they can get the cleaning done. The children are there for not the whole day, but for maybe 4 hours, but then they do that cleaning that they need for the next day, but then they do the real deep cleaning starting Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday for the next cohort to come in. The cleaning is a major piece that we have to provide and show the county health department that we're doing it in a very structured manner that is going to meet the safety needs for our staff and for our students. And about the immersion piece, that is something that we will continue to work on with definitely the immersion teachers and the administrator to see, what does that interaction need to look like? Does that help?
She's muted right now. I'm trying to unmute her.
Hello?
Okay.
So, completely some additional. As far as the cleaning, my understanding is currently they only come in twice a week. How I'm assuming, I guess that's going to have to change, but is there enough staff as far as for the cleaning crew? Can we get volunteers? Is there an addendum of sorts that how to address this? Because I know there was a financial concern even when we were at Adelante, the cleaning crew was only coming, I believe, twice a week. And I don't know that there's much difference at Selby or at any other school. So I'm just wondering also how that's going to be addressed.
So Rosemary, we're working on that. We're working on that right now because the cleaning cannot be done like it was done previously. So with that being said, just stay tuned because it cannot occur in that fashion. And the board will be having to make some decisions in the next couple weeks regarding budget.
So our next speaker is Jen Cook.
We should probably clarify that I believe, and Dr. Baker, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the cleaning at the school sites, the high-touch areas like the bathrooms and the cafeteria and things like that, they're cleaned daily, right? And then it was more like emptying of trash and vacuuming of the classrooms that was done a couple of times a week. Maybe you can just clarify what was done before. And then I know we're going to need to be doing a lot more moving forward.
We are have to be doing a lot more moving forward because what we were doing previously of just emptying out the trash, doing, sweeping and cleaning when needed. And then on your day, you were supposed to get, the majority of the cleaning done. That cannot take place anymore. So what needs to happen now, what's required under the framework is that the bathrooms need to be cleaned like every hour. It has to be according to the framework. Also, when the children leave the class, say they're leaving at 1:30, 2 o'clock, whatever, we have got to start some type of a deep cleaning then using this machine that we purchased to assist us to get that cleaning done. And then when that cohort leaves, say that cohort is there, a cohort is there Monday and Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, say we don't have Wednesday, that Wednesday time is for a deep cleaning for the cohort that was there for those first 2 days. The next cohort comes in, B, for Thursday and Friday, you do the bathrooms every hour, you make sure when kids leave, there's cleaning done again. But then when kids leave on Friday, there's Friday night and Saturday that the deep cleaning needs to occur once again. So it's real different compared to what we were used to doing. We can't do it in that same fashion and open up school. So that's what we're working on right now with facilities. And our custodial staff will be getting trained in a different manner through the County Office of Ed. And then we are looking at positions. HR will be helping me look at positions of how we're going to make this occur. Because right now, with the staff we have, we need additional staff. And then I know the parent also asked about volunteers and so forth. We cannot use volunteers. We're not allowed to use volunteers. We have a classified union. That is not allowed. And then also under the guidelines and the framework, no volunteers are allowed to do anything.
Okay, so let's move on to our next speaker, Jen Cook. You're unmuted.
Hi, thank you so much. I think there's been a lot of representation from the Adelante Selby community. I just wanted to voice my concerns with an incoming kinder and try to maybe put a bug in your ear about the immersion programs. I can't see any of these models really being sustainable or effective for a incoming kindergartner trying to learn a new language, especially as we are a home that doesn't have any native Spanish speakers in our home. So I would love some information from either the board or to communicate to the administration that they need to work very closely with the teachers to be able to communicate how we're going to overcome some of the challenges, because while my student will do a very good job sitting in front of a screen and trying to listen and learn and, you know, color in her little monkeys or whatever else she needs to be doing, I don't see her really being successful in immersion, which is supposed to be at 90% for a kindergarten level, and having distance learning be effective that way. So I don't think you have to comment on it. I just want to voice that concern and hope that there will be some communication to the incoming kinders, first grades, TK, whatever, about what the plans are to overcome and mitigate some of those issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. I don't know if anybody wants to address that right now, or
we're still in the planning.
Yeah, we'll keep that, I mean, in the works. Got it. Our next speaker is Christopher Rozan.
Unmuted.
Chris, muted, go ahead.
There we go, unmuted. It's hard to follow Rex. He kind of brought up a lot of the topics I wanted to talk about. So I got kind of skipped forward to I think the bottom line is, especially at Adelante, we're really, or Selby, we're just really concerned about, especially the kindergartners, keep getting on top of the language, like Jen said. This is going to be a rough patch for them anyways, and it's hard to see how they're going to ever catch up through subsequent grades if, you know, the fundamentals aren't given to them right from the beginning. Anyways, there's nothing, I know it's nothing we can solve right now, but it's kind of the main concern for most of us. And maybe I'll throw one thing out and then I'll duck real fast before you all try to hit me. When you talk about there's not enough space to do the distancing and the learning and all that kind of stuff, I would remind you that you have several open campuses which are currently sitting unutilized, which may have their own challenges in setting up, but there is 100%, I don't see space being a problem for instruction. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Please don't yell at me.
Not going to yell at you. You bring up a valid point. Although we do only have one campus that's unoccupied right now. So that's something to think about for sure. Our next speaker is Michelle Butler, and I don't see her name on here now. Michelle, are you with us? You don't see her either?
Yes, I see her. Oh, just saw it and it disappeared.
Oh, there it is.
There it goes.
Butler, she put her hand up, but
Nope, and then it disappeared again.
Michelle, keep your hand up. There we go.
There we go.
All right, Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you. Wow, there's like so much, and I don't envy you your job, or me my job. So let's see. I don't know how school can be school in the way we think of school with all of these restrictions. Like when Christy was talking about kindergarten, like, I don't know, little kids depend so much on sharing space and sharing manipulatives and hugging friends and learning how to behave and watching their teacher's mouth when they're learning to speak and read. And that's going to be really hard with masks on and with all the new rules. And then if we loosen the masks, I mean, I've had children unfortunately cough, and I've ended up with, you know, it's gross, but like spit in my eyeball before. So it's a real concern. And that kind of also goes along with special ed, with the little special ed children. Oh my goodness, if they have autism, how are they going to handle a mask? And if they have autism, how are they going to understand you stay in this one place with a blue line? And it's just going to be a lot of work for the primary teachers and the special ed little ones. Now, I think the older ones could do it, but then again, the older ones are the ones I've noticed in this last couple of months do online learning really well. So I think there's this huge quandary, and I really hope we can think outside the box. Like maybe there other ideas. Maybe students could come to school 1 day a week and connect with their teacher and get assignments. And then the teacher will have more time the rest of the week to, you know, meet with them however they need to learn. And, you know, I just hope that when we do committees that maybe this is the time to really explore ideas that maybe we haven't even thought about yet. Like I liked that a lot of parents were saying that the teachers that, you know, are over 60 or have medical concerns, why can't they serve more than what would normally be on their caseload? That this is not the time to think of boundaries for Hoover. This is time to think of, okay, all these fourth graders, their parents don't want them to go to school. How can we work this out? I don't know if any of that made any sense. I really feel for you. I know as teachers, we're trying, we're training, we're meeting with parents, we're trying to meet children's needs. We have been. I didn't even let the children's know that the reports cards were going to be comment only, because I kept telling them they needed to do work for the report card. So I know we're trying, and I know we want to try harder. We want school to be school. And I'm just wondering if school can even be school right now, and how we could really think collaboratively to make it something. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. And all of those different scenarios that you've talked about are definitely things that are being talked about and are being considered. Even the, you know, the teachers that want to work from home doing the full distance learning for the other kids. So all of that's in consideration. Our next speaker is Siri Phillips, and Kyle, it's C-E-R-I.
Okay.
Hi, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi. So my name is Carrie Phillips. I am the parent of a first grader, and I also have an incoming kinder. I think that I'm going to reiterate some of the concerns that some of the other parents have already mentioned, but I just, you know, want to make sure that that's the concern is heard, that this is not a short-term thing, right? I mean, we've dealt with this for a couple of months, and it's been something that we've all been able to try and accommodate as best we can. But there's not going to be a vaccine for a couple of years, right? Like, we're talking about the long term. This is the whole year, right? And I think that's where, I mean, some of the parents have already alluded to it, like the loss of learning is going to become a much more of a significant issue for all of us. And I think especially these younger kids, like, they need to get to know their teacher. I think a kindergartner doing online learning with someone they've never met just isn't realistic. You know, I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's so hard. Like, my preschooler has a circle time every day with a teacher she knows and loves, and that's great. But like, to integrate with people they've never seen in reality, like, that it's not going to lead to productive learning. And I totally agree, we've got to think out of the box. And I think, you know, if the kids don't come back for the first 2 weeks in kinder, when they can't be walked into the classroom with their parents, like, that seems like an easy decision to make. You know, you could start kinder later in the year to give the kinder teachers more time to prepare. But like, we keep talking about the 15% who will never send their children back to school, but that means 85% of the parents are willing to send their kids back as soon as possible. And we've got to think about everyone's safety, but we've got to think about the learning for these children, because they need an education. And this isn't short term. This isn't a month. Like, there are so many studies saying kids never get back learning that they lose at this age, right? And, you know, it's not just essential workers who have to work. Even those of us who are in tech and have had like some flexibility for these few months, like, eventually everyone has to go back to work, right? You can't live in this part of the world and not work. So there's no one to look after these children, right? Like, we all need that support. So I know I'm reiterating things that people have said, but I do think it's widespread among a lot of us that these concerns are from all of the parents.
Thank you, Carrie. Our next speaker is Allie Gilmore, And Kyle, I think it might be Allie, A-L-L-I.
Okay. Done.
Hi, Allie, you're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Allie Gilmore. I am a parent to two students in the district. One is an incoming third grader and one is a preschooler who receives therapy services under an IEP through the school district. My question has been touched on already, but I was hoping to get a little bit more information, and that is, I'm wondering if we can have some more information about what the plan is for special education, both the mainstream classroom accommodations that some students receive and also the therapy services and the full-time services. I think that many students with special needs, for them, remote learning is either pretty much inaccessible or just much, much less effective. And also the remote learning that we've had so far is not especially personalized. And so it really kind of undermines that personalization that's the heart of special needs education. So, I mean, whether it's like hands-on services like physical therapy or occupational therapy that are very hard to deliver virtually, or whether it's assistive technology that doesn't quite close the gap, or just attention challenges that kids might have with respect to having to sit in front of a screen for all their learning. I want to acknowledge that our therapists and our teachers in the experience that we've had so far they've been phenomenal. It's clear that they're going above and beyond, and it's clear that the situation is very challenging, but I'm concerned that we're just not meeting the needs of these kids who are at risk of regressing. And so I'm wondering what considerations are on the table. If we don't have a plan yet, then are we considering outside service providers? Are we considering a different remote versus in-person model for these kids? Are we considering IEP modifications? What's on the table, and what's the plan as we know it so far?
Dr. Baker, you're muted.
So for the special day class students, as we know right now, those special day class students will most likely be coming to school. They are in a small environment to begin with. By environment, I mean it's very small class size. And so we can meet the needs of those students within the regular school day. And their day will probably be 5 days a week. I'm not sure if the hour times that it's there because of the cleaning that has to take place every day. So that's special day class. When you're talking about still children with IEPs and RSP, that's a different model where the RSP teachers were still having to work with them to determine what would be best. The other piece, when you're talking about outside people, the therapists coming in, we're also working with the therapist to see what model will best meet the need of the IEP. I understand what you said about the distance learning piece with the therapist and the teacher that you have right now have been great, but there have been some inconsistencies that I've learned in regard to the outside therapists coming in working with children. And we're working with those agencies right now because it's not consistent. And talking to our special ed director, Dr. Polino, she's doing everything possible to make sure that the IEP is being met. But due to the fact that we are working with an outside agency to meet some of these needs for us, we're not totally satisfied. So to answer that question, we're broadening our search to help us, especially with the specialists that work with a child on at this time. I hope that gives you some information.
Yes, that's helpful. I'm wondering if there's any information about kids in mainstream classrooms and what accommodations they might expect as part of their, if they're going to have IEP revisions, what kind of accommodations might help with remote learning.
Right, Dr. Polino is looking at that right now. We're trying to see about if we do have an IEP revision, or is there some manner in which the child can be mainstreamed. So I know she is working with her team, and that she's part of the Ed Services Subcommittee also. But the last conversation I had, I know she and her team were looking at that to see how, for those students, that they could be mainstream, especially with the distance learning piece, because with the piece that, say for example, let's say for example, there's 14 children in the cohort. Right now, as the framework delineates, I'm not to put, I have those 14 original kids in that cohort. I'm not supposed to bring anybody else in. Even if a child were to leave or decide, no, I want to go distance learning or not come back to school, I still can't put anyone in that cohort. But that's not to say that that couldn't change. So with that being said, she is looking at the possibility for the mainstreaming piece to see how it could be how the child could be mainstream with some type of distance learning right now, because of the constrictions of the guide, the framework that's coming out from the county. Does that help?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
Okay. But that's not, remember, nothing's set in stone. Nothing's set in stone. It could change.
Okay, our next speaker is Vanessa Carbajal, and I'm not seeing her name on the list. There's one Vanessa. Vanessa Carbajal, are you here? Can you raise your hand if you're here? No, okay, we'll move on to Heather Morey.
There you go.
Hi, Heather, go ahead.
Hi, this is Heather Morey from PE Plus. Hopefully I'll be short. I just wanted to say thank you for your partnership during this season in regard to physical education in our schools and allowing training time this week as we plan for next year. We've been part of that, so there's been a lot of thought and care put into that, so thank you. On our end, we've been doing what we can, just providing PE lessons the last couple months and really having to think outside the box. So I couldn't imagine all of the planning for such a big district over this time. So we just look forward to supporting the district in whatever next year looks like. So thanks, John.
Welcome.
Thank you, Heather. Next speaker is Nora Aguirre. Kyle, do you see Nora? I'm not seeing.
No, I'm
not. Patricia Tellez. Go ahead. Unmute it.
Thank you. Good evening. I just got a couple questions from the parents from the North Fair Oaks area. So what happened with those kids who depends for the lunches, school lunches, and with this distant learning, how are we gonna feed all those kids? And my other question is, if the teacher are doing this distant learning and some of the kids can suffer from abuse in their home, how they're gonna know that? My other question is, how we're gonna help those parents who doesn't speak English and don't know how to use a computer, how are we going to help them to be able to help their kids so they don't get so behind, because as we know, they're already behind. And how we're going to, anything that the district is offering for the kids who are suffering for depression or any, stress situation, with all these situation with, parents losing jobs, housing. So what the district is thinking about those kids who really need that support, and sometimes they feel like the school is their safe zone. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you answer my questions.
I'm a little bit perplexed about the North Fair Oaks question in regard to the food, because our students are being given food each week. And there are several schools that they can go to receive food. Plus, there are also dinners being provided. So I really don't understand that question because it does exist.
Oh, no, but I'm saying during the summer and during, if the next year is going to be like that, the whole year round, whatever the system is going to be between um, distant learning and not distant learning. So the kids will still get in these lunches and dinners. How it's going to be.
There's still going to be lunches and dinners provided through the summer, and we are continuing when school resumes again to continue the lunch program and probably dinners, because dinners have been not only through the Redwood City School District, but has also been through the Boys and Girls Club. So I'm assuming that when we start again in August, that will continue. I'd have to check about the dinners with the Boys and Girls Club, but I'm positive that they would continue with that. The part about the parent training, we heard that very clear from our teachers, and so we are going to have some parent trainings for our parents in regard of how to use the technology at home with their students. And so that's one piece that we're definitely putting into place. The piece about the social emotional piece of children are depressed, have anxiety. What's really great about the North Fair Oaks area, not only do you have the clinic, but we also have Garfield, we have Taft, and we have Hoover that have community schools. And the community school coordinators have been available through this whole time for any assistance that a family may need. And they're going to be available during the summer. So they should contact the school's community school coordinator or Pati Ortiz, who is the director of community schools.
The other question was about how with the distant learning, the teachers are going to know about if a kid is suffering abuse in their home, because with this, no contact, no visual, how we're going to fix that?
That's a very good question. I do not have an answer for you. I don't have an answer for you at this point in time. Since we can't see it, even if we're looking at them via screen, it would have to be reported to us. And right now, no matter how I'm digging, it has to be reported to us so that we make sure that we get services out there. But that's a very good question for something for us to think about.
It is. It's definitely a really good question. And, I'm hearing that referrals to child welfare have gone way down since shelter in place happened because the mandated reporters aren't getting, the real face time with their kids to find out what's going on. So thank you for bringing that up, Patricia. Next is Victor Hernandez.
Did we go to the top? Okay.
Hi, Victor. Go ahead.
Hi, Janet. Hi, Dr. Baker. Victor Hernandez. I'm the executive director of PCC School Age Childcare. Also got the chance to lead the P Plus program with Heather Morey that was speaking a little bit earlier. Just wanted to lend our support to the school district in providing childcare. Our program was able to open these last 2 weeks of school and support distance learning, and it was pretty interesting. But we had plenty of learning lessons that will be ready to support the district and our current families, and hoping that it would be a couple new ones. Our capacity, due to the new guidelines and county restrictions, have made it so that we can't support that many kids on our current campus, but we'll be ready to support kids at a new campus. So just hearing that child care is a growing concern, and I've heard it many times on the call. We wanted to let the school district know that we'd be ready to support you at our current campus or somewhere else needed this school year. So we have our ear on the conversations, and just ready when you guys are to support you, whether it's in coaching or to take on more Redwood City School District students.
So Victor, would you please give Pati Ortiz a call? You have her number, don't you?
I do. So Pati Ortiz, she's been great. She's been giving us some guidance of just what was going on within the school district to help us prepare for our families. But yeah, we're hoping that with that guidance, we'll be able to prepare for more. But yeah, I'll follow up with Patty again, John. She's been doing a great job for us and the rest of the childcare partners.
All right, thank you.
Thanks so much, Victor. Next speaker is Karina Perez. I'm guessing, Kyle, that it's the initials KP.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to promote her to a panelist because she doesn't have the upgraded one.
Okay. Hi, Karina, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I am a parent from Garfield Community School, and I have 2 children who attend to Garfield. And I would love for the district to opt for the first option, which is option 1. There is, in my opinion, there is no way option 2 will work, since since a big group of parents are refusing to send their children to school due to the health concerns. Also, option 3 is too much work for the teachers. If we give them 2 responsibilities, which is teaching school and teaching through the computers at once, I'm afraid that the teachers won't be able to give quality teaching to our children. At home learning, both of my children's teachers did an amazing job. They were communicating with me often if I had any questions, and they were giving virtual classes, I believe 3 times a week, which was great. So I think option 1 will be the best, in my opinion.
Jack?
I don't see Janet. I think she might have gotten dropped.
Yeah, I was like, did I say anything wrong?
Yeah, Janet just sent a text saying, I got booted trying to get back in.
Okay.
Next speaker is Rebecca Hecht.
Thank you for
Thank
your.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. I couldn't see it. I was wondering which.
Okay, well, I guess I can take over until we get Janet back on. And who did you have, Dennis? Who's the next speaker?
She said it was Rebecca Hecht and then Mary
Okay, Rebecca Hecht.
Right. So Rebecca is unmuted right now.
Okay, yeah, it's actually Daniel Hecht. We're sharing an account here. But I'm a parent of an upcoming first grader at Adelante Selby, and to be honest, none of the plans really looked that appealing, and we have some serious concerns about the quality of education that our kids are going to receive in the fall. With that, we're looking at either homeschooling or private schooling as possible options as well. And my question is, how many other parents have expressed interest in pulling their kids out of public school, and how does that affect your enrollment numbers and funding?
At this point in time, I don't have any numbers for parents that are pulling their children out of the school district. I only have numbers for those parents who are not sending them to school to be face-to-face with their children, but want distance learning only.
Okay, thank you.
So the next speaker is Marlena Goana. Kyle, do you see her?
Yeah, she raised her hand. She's at the top.
Oh, here she is. Okay, great. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the hard work you're doing. I know it's not easy. The reason I want to speak up for my kids, I mean my students, it is because I work with special needs kids, kinder, first and second grade, and they, like students with special needs have very special needs. Some of them are gonna need, or they need actually toilet help with the toilet, changing diapers. Some of them are runners. They have sensory issues, and some of them have anxiety, separation anxiety. They wear glasses, and I wear glasses too, so I know they get very foggy with the mask. I have to pull it down a little bit so they can clear or take off the glasses. So I understand what they're going through in that case. To follow the 6 feet distance, even if I only have 10 students, it's gonna be difficult. The reason for this is because they tend to go with other students. If they run away, we have to follow them, we have to hold them by the hand and bring them back to the classroom. You know, that has to happen. Changing the diaper too, all of those things. What I wanna tell you is that this school year, I was off for healthy reasons. It was not my will though, but when the distance learning happened, I was so happy because I came back to work, and I was so hungry of teaching my kids, you could call it that. I saw them every day. I counted the meetings, and it was 39 meetings, and you should see how much they advanced. The progress, the parents are so happy. I am happy to see their progress in all areas. So I was very dedicated, and I see the big improvement from when I came back. They were very regressed. They were not moving ahead. Obviously, it happens when the teacher is not there for them. So it's not their fault or the parents, but the parents are so happy right now how well they are doing. My worry is when they come back next year and the new kinders who are gonna need a lot more help than the ones I had this year. And you know, I am the teacher, I don't blame them, I love them, but they're gonna need a lot more touching, you know, hand over hand. How are we gonna do that? Even if it is, you know, special ed, we still need to help them. They have different needs. So I'm just worried that the learning that they did all these days is gonna regress. Just don't know what's gonna be the best, but I feel that in the case of my students, distance learning really helped. I even recorded a video with the permission of the parent, and I showed it to our school psychologist because I was just so delighted to see the improvement in all areas, math, reading, and the social emotional. It was amazing. Even though I had 3 kids who cry, I had 2 who spent a lot more time crying because separation anxiety. I can just imagine if these kids would have been the ones who came to kindergarten this school year, it would have been so much harder for them to settle down if I was wearing a mask, if they were wearing masks too. And we would be saying like, oh, no, don't sit down there. You know, this is the place where you stay. So I just thought that you should hear from a special ed teacher. I don't know if special ed teachers are in the committee or first task, but I think you should know everything that is going in our heads, and I've been preparing myself really good for that.
Marlena, I'm going to need to cut you off. I'm sorry, you're over your 3 minutes, but thank you. I think we understand your concern about special ed and some of your questions. I don't know, Dr. Baker, if you want to say anything.
We do have representation of special ed teachers on the subcommittee. We do have.
Oh, great, thank you. But by the way, I noticed that other people spoke 5 minutes, but that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, I just took over, so I'm doing the 3 minutes, which is what we've done.
Right. Thank you.
Sorry.
Lucky me.
Well, thank you very much for your comment.
Bye.
Okay, and then next we have Carrie Schmidt.
Is she there? Oh, yes.
There was one that was just KERI that I just unmuted.
That should be her. Carrie?
No. Wrong one.
Oh, there she is.
Hello. Hi, this is Carrie Schmidt. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Dr. Baker and the board members. I just wanted to express my opinion about what's gone on in the last couple of months here with regards to the COVID crisis. And how I felt about that as a teacher. Again, my name is Carrie Schmidt. I've been a teacher, a bilingual teacher at Hoover Elementary School for around 25 years, and a reading specialist, and now I'll be in Ryan at first grade. It was really, really traumatic for everybody involved to have to switch from in-class learning to the online format. And so, you know, it's not something that, of course, I'm saying this because I'm hearing parents really concerned. It's something that we had to do. It's something that we're doing to ensure everybody's safety. And that is the priority, right? The priority is to ensure that people are safe mentally and also physically at this point. And in the transition, I want to say that we were very conscious as educators to take into account our children or the students' social emotional, you know, kind of where they're at socially emotionally, and keeping really close eye on that, because we didn't want to overwhelm children with what we were presenting them. We wanted them to feel that they were, we would check in with them and see how they're feeling, and then we'd carry on with our lessons. And we wouldn't expect as much. Why? Because they were under a kind of a level of stress that they've never experienced in their lives, probably. And likewise, we were transitioning from the in-class teaching to the online format. I just want to say that we've had a lot of discussions as teachers, and we've gone through a lot of trainings, which have been extremely helpful. I think a lot of things that have come up are that, how is this going to be successful? This is going to be successful if we work as we've always worked together as teachers and parents as a team. We really can't expect for teachers to do it all. Parents are going to need to really be there in terms of a prepared and willing to support their children, and how to get online, and how to maneuver around the new applications that we may be working with. But I'll tell you something, there's a lot of advantages to working online with regards in small groups, and still seeing children's faces through Google Meet in small groups, and also doing that in a large group. And I think a lot of children have really enjoyed that experience. I will say that I am concerned about children remaining constantly in their homes. Why? Because there is that group of percentage of children who are at high risk being in their homes because of their own safety, and because there's instability, and a lot of children have relied on the school setting for their lives to be more stable and to be safe. But I think as educators, we have a lot of experience, and we monitor a lot of things. Even online, I could sense what's going on in some of the households, and what I need to advise, take note of, and also share that information with maybe an administrator, make sure everything's safe in the home. So I think as educators and as parents, we need to work together to, first of all, the priority is to bring down the levels of the virus within our community, right? To ensure that children are socially, emotionally stable, and to be able to, and that means to have levels of engagement that brings down their anxiety, so that they're able to take on information online and to be engaged. But ultimately, I think the goal would be to have a hybrid model, if I'm speaking for myself, because of course we want to be in the same space as children. We want to work with them. We want to see we want to be engaged and make sure that we're monitoring them as much as we can. But is that going to be possible? We don't control that. We're controlled right now by an illness, by a virus that's spreading that we don't have control over. And I just would like to say that I think both parents right now are feeling anxious, as I feel anxious, as I have two high schoolers. They're doing online too. There's a lot of things out of our control right now. And so I think we should try to work together as best as possible to work for the best outcome for our families, for the children. And when it comes to the second language, I've taught in Spanish, and I've also been teaching children who are, second language learners, and it can happen and it can be successful, but it is going to be a lot of being consistent, checking in, and having the component of the parents' support at home. It's not going to be, we are.
Carrie, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up. Sorry.
That's it. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Janet, you want me to turn it back over to you? Are you ready?
Sure. Yeah, that was fun. Thanks for that smooth takeover when I just disappeared.
Well, actually, Dennis helped prompt me. I said, well, Janet's not here. And then, of course, Dennis picked up the speaker. So thank you very much for prompting me that I'm vice president, so I needed to jump in. So I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, so thanks. We have Nora Aguirre. I think she wasn't here when we called on her before.
You look.
No, I'm not. Nora, are you, okay, wait, are you here? There's 3 people with hands up, but I'm not sure that.
I don't see her.
No, I don't either.
I'm just wondering if she has a different name listed and that's why they're raising their hands, but we need to know who to unmute, so.
I do know.
And Arlette doesn't see because she keeps.
Okay.
But Arlette, if it's not Nora, then we'll need to we can't.
Can I also just say, Janet, that last night at the Innovate meeting that Cecilia and I attended on Zoom, there was a Nora Arriaga who may be the same person, and she had some special ed questions, and I did connect. Dr. Polino is going to call her tomorrow. So Nora, I don't know if that's why you were trying to speak, but I will say that our special ed director, Dr. Polino, will be calling you tomorrow. I did give her that information as you requested.
Okay, so my screen is totally frozen. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Well, you guys are all just frozen in place, but that's okay if you can hear me. So that's the end of our speakers cards. I don't know if the board, if you guys have any more questions or discussion, or Dr. Baker, if you wanted to, do you want to talk about the committees now, or is that later?
I wanted to, but I see Dennis kind of motioned to say something.
Oh, I can't see that, so.
So you have me so well trained. Thank you, Dr. Baker. So I wanted to make 2 comments, and I'm sure every board member would agree. First, I want to thank the audience for their questions. They were extremely helpful in things that, you know, we have been thinking about, and some we need to think more. And then if you go to the attendees, we have an awful lot of teachers, staff, administrators on the call. And I think it's just a great opportunity to thank them on behalf of the board and the administration for all their tremendous hard work over the last 3 months for not only what they have done, but also what we know they're going to do next year. So they're totally professional, have done a wonderful job, and they make us very proud. Thank you.
Janet, is it okay if I?
Yeah, why don't you take over while I'm frozen?
Okay.
I can hear everything.
Let me ask first, then Maria or Cecilia, would you like to say anything? I can let you go first.
Well, I can go. I would concur with Dennis and thank everyone as well. It's really great to see how well everyone has risen to the challenge. This has been just unprecedented. So, you know, it's been very difficult, and everyone has just marched right in and done their best, and that's all we can ask at this time. I don't know if we're going to talk about it after John talks about the committees or not, but I'll let somebody else go.
So did you want me to start?
Hold on, let me
No, because I think there, Cecilia wanted to probably say something, right? And Janet? And you?
So really quick, of course, to take the opportunity to thank all the staff, teachers, principals, classified staff, and everyone that has put an enormous amount of time to try to make this a smooth transition as possible. Definitely coming from a classified experience, I know that it's really hard as a school employee. And so kudos to everybody, and I'm really grateful to be part of this community.
So yeah, so I also want to say thank you very much, Dr. Baker, Liz Wolf, thank you, and just all the staff who have put a lot of time and energy into the plan. I really like that we're getting teachers and classified and staff input. I think that's going to be really important as we move forward. And then also, we've gotten some really good parent feedback tonight. I know that last night when Cecilia and I met with Innovate, we also got some good input there that I'll be delivering to Dr. Baker. I liked, Dr. Baker, that you talked about moving forward, we would make sure that we figure out ways to get out to parents, different parent groups. I would imagine that would be the DLAC and the Superintendent Advisory Committee. But maybe there's some other opportunities. I know that there's parent leaders through Innovate who are interested, and some of them are district parents at our district sites, in addition to charter schools, but there's also some parents from our district sites. And I would imagine there's other parent groups. We heard a lot from Adelante Selby, as well as from the Mandarin Immersion. And then I would also say our English learners and our special ed. There's some definitely groups that I think we really need to be thinking about as we move forward. And I know we'll get into that, and I know we'll have an opportunity to kind of talk about it more. I think, you know, some of what I heard tonight, I think if we also use an equity lens, that might help us as we think, as we move forward. And I know that our district has really been thinking about that because we did hear tonight, you know, some groups that may, again, need more than others. It's sort of this equitable issue, whether you're an essential worker or not, whether you're an English learner, an immersion or not, or a special ed, or if you're a younger kids that need that sort of, you know, initially kind of some of that onboarding into school and what it is and all that. So I do think we'll need to think about that. But I'm really appreciative of the comments, and I think we can go back to what we talked about. There's so many unknowns right now that we're grappling with. And I would just say that from, you know, we did hear a lot from some parents who are concerned about the quality of education and all of that. And I think, you know, what I can say, knowing that who our staff is and who they are, and that we're going to want to do the best we can by kids, and we need to do that in a health and safe way. But I have confidence that we'll figure out the best plan we can do with the situation we're given, right? I mean, we are in this pandemic, and we have to recognize that and all that's associated with it. So I just want to say thank you. I think we have a lot to work on. I'm happy to dig in and help out, as I know our other board members are as well. So thank you very much. And Janet, are you ready to take over again, or you want me to continue?
I mean, I'm still here, but you guys are still frozen.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I couldn't say it any better than that. So I'll just say ditto, Elisa. And I know there are just so many different facets to think about. And I think that our district and the county are doing a really good job of making sure that we're addressing each of those issues. And I hope that our community understands that, that yes, there is a lot to think about, but we have a lot of very smart people that are working on it. And I am confident that we will be able to come up with something that will be the healthiest and safest way to reopen in the fall and meet everybody's needs as best we can. So thank you to all the staff for all the work that you've put into this, for the teachers and the principals and all the other staff that have been working on this also behind the scenes. I know you've been having meetings about this too. So turn over to Dr. Baker.
Okay, so next steps for us, and I alluded to some of this earlier. So one of the things that is going to occur right away is the next parent survey. The next parent survey is ready to go. I just need to touch base with Jorge whether I can send it out tomorrow or Friday, one of those days. It's been totally translated in Spanish. It has characters along with it in Spanish so that people can understand better the manner of how we're asking the question. With that being said, that's going to be really important information for us to have back to continue our planning. So we are going to continue with our subcommittee work also, and our steering committee. With that being said, I want to open it up to board members, because I know that our board president it will be sitting on the Ed Services subcommittee. So there are committees that you could each, if you want to partake, sit on, because you're not being at the same time. It all falls within the Brown Act. So there's facilities, there's wellness, and there's HR. So give yourself some time to think about it so you can have some input there. Think about ideas, think about the questions tonight. And then you also will come back with the next, when we have our board meeting and under COVID-19 reporting out, along with our subcommittee leaders that report out, you can also report out with them to give your viewpoint of what you saw in the committee. So think about that. I meet with each of you every week. I have a meeting tomorrow. I think it's with Elisa and it's with Dennis and Maria. And then Fridays with Elisa and Cecilia. So we'll talk about it more, but I think it'd be very important for you to choose one to be on. The other piece is that when we get further down the road with our still continuing draft, I'm bringing it to the Superintendent's Advisory Committee the week of the 22nd. If not the 22nd, the week of the 15th. But I still need to see where we are. The plan is to have this really, and again, it's the reason why I say, and I'll think of a better term. I'll ask my colleagues what are they using. Is on the 15th of July. This is what it looks like, and this is what we want to send parents out. We want to send this out to parents. Knowing that from that time on, it could still change, but this is pretty much the direction in which we're going. Remember, a change would be if there is a rise in COVID-19 cases and the county health department determines no schools are starting, you're going to wait. That could be a pivot right away. But we would be ready. We would be ready with that thought in mind. We'd be ready. But just to have this out to the community that this is our plan that we have for reopening on August 19th. In the interim, there would be, as Liz pointed out, community forums where we could get community to give input, our parents to give input, and give us other items maybe to think about that we could possibly tweak before that time, the July 15th and August 19th when school starts. The biggest piece for us that is really going to be a high bar for us to achieve, and where we really need to start talking about to the county and to the city, is the child care. You heard it tonight. I heard it already in the previous surveys. That is a really, really big piece. Yes, Victor came on from PCC and said they could help, but yet, they are under the guidelines that existed previously, which is 12 students to one adult. That's the cohort, and they're in one location. And that cohort is always moving. When a cohort moves, they move together. You cannot, a kid leaves the program, the daycare program, you cannot put a new one in. So they're having it done in three-week intervals right now. So after 3 weeks, if that cohort is still all together, then you start another 3 weeks with the same cohort. But they're not allowing, new children to come in and out in the daycare piece. That's how it sits right now. That's not to say that it won't change, because new orders come out, every couple weeks. But that's how it is right at this point in time. And that's how it's working for summer school for any district that is doing summer school, along with the deep cleaning that needs to take place. The other piece for me to find out, and I will need to talk with district staff, we have brand new parents that have enrolled that are not receiving the information. They're brand new to Redwood City. They're receiving it from a relative, or they're receiving it from a neighbor. But I need to find a way for all those new children who have enrolled to get the information that comes out on my, my weekly newsletters, because I've been receiving some information from parents that they're new to the district, but they're unable to communicate with us in the manner that other parents are right now. So Kyle, I'm going to have you and Jorge and I meet to see how I can rectify that issue.
We'll get it done, John. We'll get the data for you.
Okay. The other one is the parent training. That's another big piece that came out loud and clear from the teachers, and you heard some parents tonight say that. We have got to get a parent training component in place so that parents understand how to utilize the Chromebooks. I do believe we're also thinking of, if iPads start to go home, how to utilize those, and who can best give that training. Is it some of our staff? Is it Familias Unidas that can help us with it, because they have been doing some of it? If you look at the different videos that they've been sending us, they've done a lot. But that parent training is a big piece when you talk through the equity lens. Our parents who understand technology and our parents who have technology at home and use it on a regular basis, it's easier for them compared to those that don't use technology, that don't have technology in the home, with the exception maybe of the Chromebook that we are pushing out to the families so our students can use. So that's another one that we really need to think of. The other piece under the facilities department and under the HR department, when we come back, we're only coming back with half the students, correct, at each site. If you were to say that's what happens. Half the students are at each site. That doesn't, so what that says to me is some of our staff, classified staff, that may have to be utilized in a different manner. And then Wendy, our assistant superintendent for HR, Wendy Kelly, will need to work with the union, the association, to see how we can make that happen. So that we do layoffs, but maybe we do it where if you're laid off from this position, you go to this position. Instead of us hiring new custodians, we have people, well, your position's not going to exist because we don't have that many number of children at the school site. So what about going to this classification? You're not in, say for example, food service, but you're coming over to the custodial staff. Because we are going to need some additional staff, especially when it comes to cleaning. But to look at it through a lens of, we have staff, we don't want staff to lose their jobs, but staff could do a different type, a different position. But that all has to be negotiated with the union, as Wendy has informed me. So we have plenty of items to think about. And now I'll leave it open to you to ask me any questions or discussion.
Dr. Baker, I had a question. So in terms of the scheduling, whether we go to, it sounds like we're moving in the direction of offering some kind of blended learning as well as complete distant learning. So it is kind of that option 3 in terms of trying to get some kids at school site for some time and then some at home and then some all at home. I know there was a few people advocating for all distant learning, but I know we've had enough parents who really want to have their kids get the interaction if in fact we can do it in a health and safe way. So I'm curious, which of your subcommittees, or how will you make the decision? And I know it'll be a recommendation and ultimately it would come back to a board meeting, but I'm curious about the 1 week on, 1 week off, 2 day, which group is sort of thinking about that? And let me just say, one of the reasons I'm asking about that is I do think that's going to play into the conversations we're having with our partners around childcare and after school care and that kind of thing. And it feels like either one of these committees or a separate committee kind of needs to be the committee that's working with the partners to figure out that other piece. Because of course we're focused on education and that's really our responsibility. But we know in order to be successful for the families and the students, we're going to also have to be coordinating the childcare. So I know we've got Redwood City 2020, we've got our conversations that have been going on with the city and county, but could you just talk a little bit about where that conversation or work is going to happen?
So it's going to happen within the educational services.
Okay.
And within the Educational Services Committee, Pati Ortiz is part of that committee. And that's one of her big pieces that she is working on with that committee, is the child care. Now, it was great to hear Victor tonight about what he said, how they could, support and maybe help. But the thing that we're also going to have to think about are those guidelines that are framework when it comes to childcare. We have to follow whatever those guidelines are. Not to say that those guidelines won't change, but at this point in time, it is 12 students per cohort for childcare. Whether it's through the Redwood City School District, whether it's through an outside entity coming in, but that's where it is right now. And the distancing, the 6 feet distancing, that has to take place. The other piece that has to take place is that whole piece about hygiene and making sure that that location is clean thoroughly when they leave. So yes, there's a lot to think about, and always keeping your eye on that framework, because if we go outside of that framework, the county health department could say, hey, John Baker, you're the superintendent, why are you letting this happen when the framework says it's this, and there has not been a county order for you to change that yet?
Yeah, I know on our county call we had with Superintendent McGee, she was asked the question, I believe the response was that, so we'll have these stable cohorts in the school, right, that you talked about tonight, and then the childcare also has their stable cohort, but actually you could have 2 different cohorts.
Correct.
So I thought it was that it had to be the same group of students at school and in the childcare, but actually she said that according to the county health officer, it could be mixed, which of course does bring additional risk involved.
It brings additional risk, plus those 2 cohorts cannot be in the same room. As you know, our rooms are only so many feet. So you have to keep that social distancing while you have that.
Right. And I think that we're going to need to work with our partners to figure out what are other spaces, because we have some at our school site, but then we're going to have to look to other spaces, right? And of course, PCC was talked about. There could be YMCA. I mean, we're going to have to look to other, that's why we need our partners involved, right?
No, you're right. You're correct. You're correct.
And then, the only other thing I wanted to say, because I think it was brought up in some emails that the board members have gotten as well as tonight, and it's something that I'm sure everybody's thinking about, is kind of with health and safety, the whole testing, tracing, and tracking. And I know that I've had conversations with Superintendent McGee and the county health officer. I'm sure other board members, and I know Dr. Baker, you have as well. So that is something that we are hoping that the county health office will actually be responsible for. But it is going to be a key part of us being able to operate, right? But of course, what we've been told is they're under budget constraints, like we're under budget constraints. But at some point, somebody's going to have to do it and pay for it. And it's not really an educational responsibility, right?
We keep pushing it. The superintendents keep pushing it, that they've got to, like we said, it doesn't have to be at every school, or every school district. Maybe neighboring school districts share, and this is where all the staff go to get the test, the free testing. It exists at this point in time throughout Redwood City, and it's free. But I don't know how much longer it's going to exist for.
So let's see, I think Janet may have, let's see, just a moment. This is having a meeting and
she's rebooting.
Okay, she's rebooting. She's been having some technical issues. So let's see, did any board members have any additional comments? So I think, Dr. Baker, I know it would be helpful for us then to hear more about the different committees and when they meet and what the expectations are, and then we can help fill in and help where it seems to make the most sense of what you need. And I'm sure we'd all be happy to do that. So let's see, did anyone have, I think, we have a lot to do. I think we all know that. And certainly the board is willing to help out, where we can. So with that, I wonder, this was a discussion item. Do you think we covered everything?
Did we leave anything out, Liz? Can you think, okay. Anyone else? Wendy, your group?
So I have a great committee. We have been meeting regularly, once a week or sometimes twice a week. We're really looking for some more definitive items in terms of scheduling so that we can react accordingly based on what our staffing needs will be next year. And as I mentioned earlier, my department was reaching out to all the staff. Jennifer Nichols did a fantastic job reaching out to all staff that mentioned that they may want to discuss leave options and talking through what the various aspects of that would look like and what the available leaves are for all employees that have been put forth through Families First coronavirus paid leave, for example. So I think that we're going to really launch forward very soon with taking action on various items, but we're attending a lot of webinars, really getting all of the information about laws and protocols and so forth ready to go so that we can react and pivot quickly over the next couple weeks.
There's Janet.
Okay, well, I think, we know this is going to be an ongoing discussion. Thanks again from the board. And I know we heard it from some of the teachers and staff and parents. I know everybody really appreciates everything that you're doing. And, many of us sit on county calls and state calls and just know that our district is not alone in figuring this all out. So we're all in this together. I think that was what Ms. Wolf said, we're all in this together. And I thought that's true. So hopefully the community who's online tonight will continue to be a part of the solution and we can all work together. So Janet, are you ready to take over? Would you like me to? Oh, you're back.
I think I'm back. I think probably my mom's basement just isn't getting the right Wi-Fi. So I moved closer to where that comes from. So it sounds like we're moving on. Is that right?
Correct. With the exception, I think what I'd like to do is Linda, if you don't mind, just an overview of the professional development that's going on. It's fantastic what the teachers are becoming exposed to. I've got a few emails from teachers that just thanking me for, thank you for letting us this week. It's something that we've needed. So I also thank the board because the board said it went through. So Linda, if you would, before we go started with Wendy.
Sure. So I had a lot of positive feedback as well in emails thanking everyone. So thanks, Dr. Baker, for that time and the board for allowing them to do this. They have a number of different options. So we have a variety of live sessions that are done, virtually live, pre-recorded sessions that they can choose from. And also we have office hours or teacher panels. And so I had a teacher panel today, for example, of 3rd through 5th grade teachers talking about pros and cons of doing content specific instruction. And it was just a wonderful conversation because we have people who started doing that already this year or these last few weeks because it just became a necessity. It was hard for one person to try to do everything. So the offerings are those elements that we found would be effective instructional practices for online instruction for language arts, specifically for math, all different programs or software and applications that we think would be helpful for teachers, such as how to pre-record videos using Screencastify and just a whole number of different options. So it's actually very positive, lots of participation, lots of good feedback, and lots of questions. And I have to say, instructional assistants, amazing, have been participating as well. Very, very key to this. So I'm glad they were able to participate. Lots of anxiety, obviously, from teachers. For many, especially in the primary, new to the TKK and 1, and especially the 2nd grade, who all of a sudden had to use Chromebooks when they never had used them in their classrooms before, all this kind of thing. But amazing, everybody working together, helping each other, great ideas being shared, and staff development, awesome, amazing, amazing people. So I just want to thank them all, and thank you, board, again, and John, for allowing that to happen.
Wendy, do you want to talk about 6-8?
Yes, I mean, I echo many of the things Linda said. The training week has been pretty amazing, and big kudos to the staff development team. They have just worked nonstop to make this happen and to really put this together. I'm really pleased that the live sessions are being recorded so we can go back and use them again in August, along with the ones that are recorded from the beginning. And really being able to also give teachers some flexibility in their week for reflection, for their own family time. So, you know, I have to say one amazing thing about Redwood City School District is we always rise to the occasion quickly, and we did it again, certainly for this week. We thought, wow, what a great opportunity to prepare teachers for next year, knowing what we know now. I mean, I think we've learned a lot over the last spring, this past couple months. I was speaking to a principal yesterday, and she says, gosh, now that I know what I know, I'm really going to be directing my staff in a different way. So I'm impressed with the flexibility of our staff and what we've done, the new learning that's happening this week, and also revising what we know. We're learning aspects all the time, different platforms that we have available to us. So thank you also, John, for really pitching in and helping us with some of the financial pieces that are coming with us through grants and so forth to help us move along in a really comprehensive way. So the platforms are really neat. I'd love to go back and be a teacher again. It's just so neat to see what you can do. And, you know, really the sky's the limit. So it's been exciting. Thank you for asking.
So if you would each send the board the schedule, you know, it looks really great. I mean, it's fantastic. It's phenomenal. So they can look at it. That'd be good. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for what you're doing with the PD this week too. So we'll move on if there are no other comments or questions. Okay, no consent items. So 8.1, approval of updated RCTA contract language. Wendy, do you want to take that?
Yes, thank you very much. So this is an exciting moment. You know, all things being considered, we had an amazing negotiations with our teachers union this past year. I appreciate the collaboration. It's a hardworking group led by Brian Cagle from North Star and his team. So I want to thank Aaron Washburn and Michelle Torito, Kathy Schechter that represented the teachers. And I think we really finalized a fair contract where we analyzed different parts of the contract that were going to work best for teachers, really help our work as a district moving forward, compromising with areas within the tentative agreement, such as increasing instructional minutes for kindergarten, but also recognizing the demands of the teaching profession and what that entails in terms of time and space for teachers to reflect. So I think what we have in there is a good, solid contract. I do want to refresh the board's memory, although I'm sure it's right at the tip of your minds, that we actually went into a 2-year negotiation with our union, and we're very pleased at the results, but and signed it on March 3rd. So on the board memo, you see a tentative agreement for March 3rd, but also the tentative agreement update for one particular section on compensation that is dated May 11th. And I appreciate the union's willingness to be able to pivot with us in this crazy time. 2021-22 brings a lot of uncertainty. And I appreciate that we're able to come back together next January and discuss what's to come in the future with our negotiations. So we had to do in this particular situation, which is really unprecedented, is I brought forward to you the 2-year agreement, tentative agreement, that outlines all the parts of the contract except for compensation. The compensation part was the new updated tentative agreement. So just want to provide that clarity. It needed to come to you this way because of the particulars and how we actually negotiated and the documents that are attached. But that's the reason why there are the 2 documents there too. So it looks for the contract language, I mentioned there were many parts that were updated. And we also are recommending a 4% increase for our teachers for the 2021 school year.
Any comments or questions?
So one comment, I'd just like to thank Wendy and her team as well as the teachers and their team. I know it was a lot of work, and I think it's a great result.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, I echo that. It was unfortunate that we had to go back and take out the second year. But when it was signed in March, we had no idea that suddenly this was going to happen. And so I hope that coming in January, we can start looking at what we can do for our teachers. I think it was going to be the biggest raise since I've been on the board, which isn't super long, but it was really exciting, and I'm glad that we can still do the 4% at this point. So.
I would agree. Thank you, Janet. I also do want to thank Sarah Shackle. She was my right hand during negotiations and was a great asset giving a site administrator's point of view. So big kudos to Sarah Shackle.
Any other board members? Okay, so this is an action item. We would need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Dennis and Maria, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee McBride?
Aye.
Trustee Marquez? Aye. Trustee Diaz-Solca?
Aye.
Vice President McAvoy?
Aye.
President Lawson?
Aye. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So could we adjourn in honor of all of our retirees, teachers, and classified staff?
Excellent. Yeah, definitely.
Great.
So move to adjourn, honoring the retiring staff that we have. Or I'll second it. Maybe that was your motion, Dennis. Maybe you made a motion and I'll second it. How about that?
I'm flexible.
Okay, thank you all. We will see you next week for a regular meeting at 7.
We didn't vote.
Oh, okay, we can have a roll call vote. Thanks, Dennis.
Trustee McBride?
Aye.
Trustee Marquez?
Aye.
Trustee Diaz-Solca?
Aye.
Vice President McAvoy?
Aye.
President Lawson?
Aye. Okay, we will see you next week at 7 p.m.
Great.
Thanks, everyone.